Franklin County Board of County Commissioners is now in session for this August 2nd regular meeting. It's good to see you here this morning. There's a lot on the agenda, so let's get started. We'll begin with prayer and pledge. If you would please stand. Heavenly Father, we thank you today for your hand upon each and every one of our lives. Father, today as we gather together to handle the business of Franklin County, we ask that you would be with us. Be with us in wisdom, be with us in discretion, be with us in discernment. Father, we thank you for this place we call home. Help us to do our very best, not just for today, but every tomorrow that you shall give us. We thank you for today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item up this morning is payment of county bills. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Next would be, Michael, there's no awards and recognitions, correct?
Oh, that's I forgot to delete that.
Okay. I didn't think there were, but anyway. All right, next will be public comments. I'm going to take them in the order that I received them here. I think the first one, Michael, is going to be on Zoom, and Miss Debbie Jordan,
Okay, 1 second for me.
since I don't see her here in the room.
Yes. Do that. All right, Ms. Jordan, if you would unmute your phone, Theater 1549. She hasn't unmuted yet. Oh, she has. She just did. Ms. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I had a technical problem unmuting this morning. I appreciate you, Commissioners. I'm asking you this morning to revisit the Lanark Village Special District ordinances to reflect the times today. I urge you to arrange a public hearing to hear the voices of all of the members of the community. Doing so will be quite a challenge, as Lanark Village has many obstacles when it comes to communication. At this time, the Apalachicola Times admittedly has had some circulation issues, which is making public notice a bit more challenging for the people to turn to. We have a lot of issues with the Lanark Village Postal Office, where there had been undeliverable mail handed to residents to sort through on more than one occasion. I was one of those residents that the postal clerk went to hand me a box of mail to go through, which I refused to do because I knew that that was illegal. That needs to be addressed. So there's a newspaper communication issue, the postal clerk communication issue. A neighbor had actually reached out to me to ask me if I knew where she could, whether she could erect a shed, have a shed placed on her property. So I told her to call the courthouse and get it directly from the courthouse. The courthouse actually told her, the person that she spoke with, she said, told her to contact the Lanark Village Association. They seem to have an unfounded, almost authoritarian type voice in this community, and I think it's important that the community knows that they are not the authority. They are a fraternal civic organization. And instead we're having things happen like anonymous enforcement type notes placed on people's property, on their garbage cans, on their doors. It's not an HOA, it's not a retirement community. The ordinance as it is old and antiquated and does not reflect the voices of all the people in this community. So I'm urging you today to please give the public a chance to speak to hear the sorry, I know I'm slipping here on my words. I'd like you to really consider a public hearing and revisit those ordinances and make sure that the whole public knows that this is there for them. They have a voice. That's all I have this morning. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Debbie. All right, let's see who's next. Mr. Chris Crosby. come forward and state your name for the record, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Chris Crosby. Good morning, Commissioners. I know it's getting crunch time to the budgets here. I worked on this for about a week, and I brought it down as small as I can, and I'm going to try to get through it here in 3 minutes. The citizens of Franklin County should be rightly concerned about both the school board and the Board of County Commissioners has tentatively approved approximately a 14% increase of the non-homestead properties, and the homestead properties are tentatively spared of increase to limit it to maximum of 3% a year but this increase will apply each year until it's caught up to the taxable value. So this massive increase proposed spending affects all of us. I'm standing here before you this morning and want to make you sure that you realize that this is a result of a budget workshop that y'all had the other day on July 21st and 22nd, where you intentionally approve a huge increase of spending of taxation. Franklin County has some of the highest taxes capita in this state. You need to ask yourself why. Additionally, I ask you to consider the effects that it will have on the poor and non-poor citizens in this county, and will not be able to pay the taxes and to buy food and medication at the same time. One only has to look at the history in the past massive increase and their effects of the future taxes sales. This is a choice, Commissioners. This is not an act that you must follow staff advice. I ask you to take responsibility that the voters invested in you. And ask today for the option to significantly decrease the plan that you are going to cause many individuals. I know y'all have a hard job, and all I'm asking you is to look at it before y'all finalize the budget in this near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crosby, do you have anything to say about Alligator Point? That's what you'd put on your speaker card.
Well, that's where most of
Okay.
this is about.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Next, Ms. Donna Butterfield.
For the record, my name is Donna Butterfield. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I attended the Weems Board of Governors meeting held last Thursday and wanted to provide this board with some information I learned at that meeting. The Weems Human Resources Director, Jenny Greiner, is now under contract with another Alliant-managed hospital, Calhoun Liberty Hospital in Blountstown, Florida. Mileage, meals, overnight expenses, and her salary to be paid by the Calhoun Liberty Hospital when she is working in Blountstown. Jenny's new title is Regional HR Director. The Weems Board of Governors has not received monthly financial statements since last April. The new Alliant Chief Financial Officer said he had tried to get the May report finished for that meeting, but hadn't had enough time. The previous Weems CFO, Susan Daniels, abruptly quit a while back. She left Weems without giving 2 weeks' notice, which is very unusual for that level of employment. Commissioner Bolt told me Daniels and David Walker just couldn't work together, so she quit. The new Alliant CEO, Jim Coleman, resigned. He's the one that worked with you all originally. Indicated the company is exploring ways to restructure their management team. Maybe more regional employees similar to Jenny's across the Alliant-managed hospitals. Given the inability of Alliant to provide timely financial statements to Weems, the personnel turnover, and the possible restructuring of the Alliant management team, it might be advisable to have Attorney Schuler review the provisions of the Franklin County Alliant contract to ensure the contract is and will be honored in all aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. All right. Up next, Ms. Renee Brennan from the Franklin County Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Renee Brannon, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, Director of Communications, and your 911 Coordinator for the county. I'm here today just to speak about the issues that we're having with the fire departments inside dispatch. I'll give you just a quick overview of what happens when a call comes in to dispatch, whether it be on our administrative lines or our 911. That call is received, it is taken, and immediately we go into our CAD system, which is computer-aided dispatch. That's where we enter all the information such as the caller's name, address, and the issue. At that point, we start to page. If we need EMS, we page EMS first, that's protocol, and then we page our first responders on a medical or fire call. If it is a fire call, we call the fire departments, which is the same as the first responders. Once we do that, because the radio system, there's not a really good communication between our radios and their radios, and I'll explain that as being, we are on a 800 megahertz system, radio system. That's what my 3 consoles are inside dispatch. Those consoles have to be routed and take that, my voice and that tone, and route it through a UHF into a VHF. And the UHF, VHF is what the fire departments have. They are not on the 800 system, state system that we are on. So my Zetron consoles route that way. It goes through the tower room that's on the sheriff's office site. It has to go out that equipment. For Lanark and Alligator Point, it goes to St. Teresa to the tower down there and hits a repeater. For Appalach, it needs to go to the tower and hit that repeater. And that repeater, per Mr. Hoffman, no longer works. That repeater's not been working since before the East Point fires. The commission had asked them to get a quote for that repeater to be fixed. That is county equipment, not sheriff's office equipment. So that repeater needs to be fixed in order to have communication with Appalach. We tone and page them. We can't tell, they can't talk to us when it's to go to a call. I never know when they're there and when they're not there. So what we do, and since the fire in East Point, emergency management allowed us to get on the state emergency notification system, which is another step that the dispatchers have to do. We have to go onto a website, type this call out again, and pick the group that we want to send it to and send it, which there is delayed response because we're having to do 3 or 4 steps for one call. And for our citizens and for our visitors, we need to be able to streamline everything. That repeater on the Appalach side needs to be fixed. Another thing that happens is each department has a different pager or system and protocol that they go through. When we had Lanark and Alligator Point, we have to page out on one channel, talk on another channel, because it's different. Appalachian East Point, you kind of do the same. St. George Island, their system is through phone lines. So if it rains, there's hit and miss communication with them. The fire departments that do your fires and your first responders that do your medical calls, we all need to be on the same, they all need to be on the same thing. We need to find something that works for everyone. So your dispatch is not doing one thing for this group, one thing for this group, and another thing for this group. It takes response time away when you do that, because like I said, we're putting it into our system that tracks that call by address. We're paging out EMS, which is on a totally different channel. We have a tone and a page and a voice for them. they have set up, EMS has set up a communication that goes through our CAD that I've had to set up, that when we put them on a call, it automatically texts them. We don't have to do that part of it, but it does text them. So there's a difference for the ambulance service. So what I'm saying is everything needs to be streamlined. Everybody needs to be on the same thing, regardless if you go to a different radio, or if you have everything fixed, or if you go to a different paging. I request that everybody do the same thing, because what we're running into in the dispatches, we're doing several different things for different agencies. And, you know, that takes away from response time to our citizens and to our visitors. And that, like I said, the Everbridge, which is the emergency notification texting system that we went on after we got hit by lightning and the fires, for the East Point fires, that was supposed to be a temporary solution until the radio system got fixed. We are still doing that. And that is an extra step that dispatch has to do so we can get in touch. And that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Michael?
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether I need to put this in a motion or not, but I want you to get us a report back at the next board meeting to find out what it's gonna take for us to get on the same page with everybody and do it one time. Just like the young lady said, to respond in an emergency, time is valuable. I don't care what it costs, we need, like she said, everybody need to be on one accord. That way they can, so I don't know.
Look, Commissioners, if you remember, Renee had the same request to you years ago when you paid all the money you paid for the new system. It was met by resistance. And basically Renee said, and I agree with her 100%, you do it today, you do it tomorrow, eventually we have to go to a unified system. So here we are. So this basically is this board directing, once I hear you, Commissioner Lockley, I'll sit with Renee and get the best system. The system works the best, it works, with the dispatch. But then at some point, this board has to direct all your volunteer fire departments, look,
Right.
This is how you're going to be notified. It's as simple as that. It's not, well, anyway, let's not rehash what was in the past, but that's what needs to be done. So I will get with Renee, have her send me the information, how much it's going to cost, and then we have to pick a date that you're going to tell your volunteer fire departments, hey, we're moving to the system for notification from the sheriff's dispatch office. You have up until this date to prepare, do what you need to do to get on the system.
And see, my thing is, we is over this, all the fire departments. So, the resistance, throw that out the door. Just do what we got to do to make the people safe. And get one system work for all. Is that right, Mr. Chu? Is we over all of them?
That is correct, Commissioner. Y'all are the governing board of all 7 of the volunteer fire department districts.
So what we say go when it comes to that, the resistance, I don't care about resistance, I care about safety.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, also, Michael, if you can add to that, this repeater that Renee spoke of, what we need to get that fixed and repaired,
Yeah.
because obviously that's an issue as well. We need to get that addressed.
They just gave me the quote from Williams Communication. It's from 21. I'm going to contact them, if not this afternoon, first thing in the morning, make sure those numbers are correct, because we all know things have changed, prices have changed, and then bring that back at the next meeting for your approval also.
Okay.
And I talked to Travis at City, Mr. Travis Wade. He said Duke Energy has agreed to allow them, once we purchase the repeater, to put the repeater downtown on Duke Energy's tower here, so they should have really good communications with that repeater.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
thank you. It was November, I think it was November 22nd of 2018, when I sat over here on the left side of the dais. George Pruitt stood right here and said the very same speech practically about the impaired radio system here in Franklin County. And I never will forget, that was my first motion, that I motioned that we take action on that, and I didn't get a second. No judgment there at all, but I see the same thing continuing 4 years later. I do want to reinforce the importance of this report, and we look at a consistent continuity system coming up. Very important. This is one of the ways that we maintain our volunteer fire departments as well, and that we don't get into this paid fire department potential that we have heard several times. Also, Renee, I was remembering when I first met you back in 2018, 2019, and you took me on a tour. One of the things that impressed me was that you said that you, watching over 911 money, you had a lot of it in a savings account that you were holding.
It is.
Is this money appropriate for spending on this particular event?
911 and communications is totally separate.
I understand that.
The communications is run through the sheriff's office. 911 is state funded, and that surplus account is for equipment only for 911. I can't even purchase software with that equipment. It is very technical, and everything has to be put through the 911 state board to use that money. That is the reason why it's there. I still have to do grants on the 911 side to purchase the majority of everything that gets purchased through 911. Because it's so technical, I cannot use that.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
fund.
The distinction now, I learned now, 911 versus communication, two different worlds.
Yes, and I just want to add too, on the fire department's equipment, for the sheriff's office, we have a maintenance contract, and our stuff is maintained. Our radios are programmed and maintained twice a year. That is another thing that if you do go into new equipment, whose responsibility is it going to be to make sure that that equipment is maintained? Because I think a lot of times your volunteer fire department's budgets don't include the maintenance. I mean, I can't speak for them, but they're have a limited funds. So, you know, that was another issue that Mr. Pruitt had said, you know, he doesn't have the funds to, back years ago, to maintain that equipment and have it programmed, because if you don't program it and have it, you know, maintained, it doesn't. I'll just speak with our stuff. With our radios, we have to have them reprogrammed every 6 months. My consoles are done that way. Our mobile units in the car and our handhelds that the deputies use, they're done every 6 months to a year. And if you don't get that done with this 800 system, because they do updates on these towers and everything, our stuff won't work correctly. So that is also an issue with this other equipment. It's going to have to be maintained. Their radios and their pagers, and this is the radios that they have and the pagers that they have. Like we come to you 4 years ago, it's adequate equipment. It took us 3 months with Zetron to get the interface programming so the fire department's equipment would work with my equipment. So because it's the UHF, VHF is old radio equipment. Now, does it work?
No.
Yes, but there is problems with that.
So there's a couple of things going on here, and I just want to make sure the board is aware. We're here today talking about specifically communications from dispatch to emergency response, whatever that response is.
And
correct?
them back to us.
Right,
Yes.
and then back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we definitely need to address. Also, I think we need to make sure, Michael, that we include all the fire chiefs, whoever they are, in these discussions, because the other side of that is we're also, all these fire departments, and again, yeah, we can say we're over them, but they're the ones volunteering, they're the ones serving.
Absolutely.
They're having problems also on scene communicating with each other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it takes, we have to find a way to make it work.
Yes.
And if that's us considering more funding on our side, then it's adamant that we have to do that. So, you know, sometimes when we're talking about taxation and talking about charging you more, things have to be done.
Yes.
And we have to do that for the safety of our citizens.
Absolutely.
So we need to make sure we include that in our future discussions as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
go ahead, Commissioner.
Good, sir.
You're next. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, Mike, if the MSBU funds, which funds the fire department, has the ability to fund this. If not, some of these fire departments, we may have to raise those MSBU funds for them.
Yes.
I don't think we should be funding it out of ad valorem taxes when we got a fund for that.
Yes.
Now, some fire departments are getting, you know, $100, some of them's getting $50, but some of them hadn't come back to us and wanted to raise. But I mean, and another issue is a fire coordinator that we have working over in the Lanark area right now. Is he gonna be involved in this as he is more aware of what happens across the state and being able to give us guidance on some of this? And looking at the available funds through the MS, for all the fire departments.
Yes.
They all need to pay their own fair share, and if they're not generating enough money, then that's something the board needs to address. Because that's what the money, the MSBU funds are to be used for. Communications is critical to delivering that service to the people, and that's what that tax is used for. For training, for fire hoses, whatever it takes to do the job, that's what those funds are earmarked for. And if some of the fire departments need to go up $10 on their assessment or whatever it's gonna take to help them be able to fund this, then that's something else we need to look at. But I agree that there needs to be a meeting between all the fire departments and all the fire chiefs, I should say fire chiefs, for the departments, and figure out what we need to do to make this work, because we gotta move into the 21st century. We can't keep using this antiquated communication system that we got. We need to move into more the digital style, and again, that's going to increase decrease the response time, which is critical when your house is on fire. You don't need to wait another 10 to 15 minutes for the fire department to show up. They need to get the message and they need to be there and respond accordingly. I don't see where we got a choice, but I just wanted to bring that up as a way to fund these upgrades that we're talking about. And if these individual fire departments don't have the money, then we may have to increase that MSBU to make it where they can afford it.
And Mr. Chairman, there may be grants. I know sometimes with the Florida Firefighters Association, they give grants out a lot, so that might be another, I know we talk about raising the MSBU, but this might be another option we could look at, see if there's any grants out there, to see if we can maybe circumvent some costs that way. Just a thought.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
I asked about it, but I want to put that in form of a motion.
Okay.
That you come back with both what it gonna cost and what they said, the
The
repeater.
repeater for Appalachia?
See what it
I'll
gonna
bring
cost to fix
a
that
quote for
repeater.
that.
And we need to do this quick as possible, to get it on out the way. I mean, you know, communication, if you don't got communication, you lost. Just everybody looking at each other. You got to communicate to know what, to either take care of what's going on earlier. And without it, it's bad. So I'm gonna put that in form of motion.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Lockley that we're moving forward with the discussion on what it's gonna take to fix the communications from the Sheriff's Department and back to the Sheriff's Department, and also get a quote and look at fixing this repeater in Apalachicola. That's what I
second.
understand.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if it take growing up on it, I'm like Commissioner Parrish, this don't supposed to come out of Avalon. That's why you got the MS fees and everything. So, and as we getting into this, y'all look into how much money they getting in, hey, this time to change and things that got higher. And they not gonna get no lower, not the way I see it. So we got to look, like he said, we got to look into that and probably have to raise the price on it. But we got to do whatever we got to do to take care of this.
We do.
Of this public safety.
We do. Perhaps, Commissioner Lockley, it'd be possible, if there are funds, we can find grant funds to help us convert all this equipment or buy all the equipment. Maybe we can possibly look at go up on MSBU funds in an incremental amount, like Commissioner Perry said, to cover the issue of keeping them updated that Ms. Brandon spoke of here this morning.
And maybe they always talking about that BP money you got to have jobs and everything. Check them and ask them, can we use some of that?
It's worth
That
it.
funding up there, though.
Yes, sir. Yep.
It's gonna put somebody to work.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do want to reinforce having those gentlemen from the Florida Firefighters Association that are coordinating the reorganization of the St. James Lanark Fire Department to be involved in this particular conversation and outcome. They brought some demonstration equipment and showed us at the end of the meeting that looked very, very sophisticated. And also, I'm thinking about timing too. Is it appropriate during our budget hearings to be looking at MSBU money as well for fiscal year 2022, 2023? And considering that issue related to this equipment? Is it appropriate to have that discussion?
I was gonna say during the discussion, MSBU would be a separate discussion that
Yeah.
would happen
MSBU
here.
would have to be
Mr.
addressed
Chairman?
by ordinances and
Yeah.
resolutions.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yep.
Commissioner Bolt, the MSBU funding issue it requires a ballot and a vote. So it's going to be separate from your workshops. I mean, talking about it and things of that nature are fine during your budget workshops, if that's what the
Okay.
board wants to do. But the actual legal process
Okay.
for potential increase in the MSBU funds is a completely separate process apart from your budget.
Okay, understood. Just a follow-up question, and just for my education and record, is there potentially any money available in our general budget right now to begin taking immediate action on this issue? It's a
So-
question to be educated me.
That's what I was going to bring up. So a few things. Sometimes the equipment is one cost, but you guys will be surprised about the maintenance contract, what Renee was talking about, the cost of those. So, you know, as I hear, you know, criticism of the budget, this is exactly what the problem is. Things like this happen throughout the year that this board has to plan for, that most of the time the general public doesn't realize that there are things like this that come up. I'm not, anyway, so again, so here's what we have to consider here now. Renee, I'm gonna speak outside of you for right now. So right now, we gotta talk about the repeater. We gotta talk about, make sure whatever repeater we have, let's say for Appalach, are the radios. What's gonna cost of the radios to be, lack of a better term, tuned or programmed for that particular repeater? What maintenance contract is we're gonna have to pay for that? I hear you, Commissioners Parrish and Lockley, about raising the MSBU. That's a process, but you guys want this fixed now. I might not be able to negotiate with the MSBU and each department about paying for that right now. I don't know where they are with their budgets. So that's one thing. Another matter, so the scope of the fire coordinator is basically Lanark Village. So now I'm asking him to talk about something outside of that. It might require revamping of the contract that Attorney Schuler had created. That's a question I will bring up at the next meeting if it's needed. He might not. He might say, no, I'll just tell you guys, you know, what I think we should do. That's a conversation with Renee, myself, and him as we move towards that. Now, in addition, and please understand, I'm not trying to be the gray cloud here, but in addition, in talking to Renee, we have to realize and the chairman said this, on the volunteer fire departments end of just the dispatch communication, what is it gonna cost them? I gotta see where they are with their budgets, because not everybody might, I mean, some have fundraisers, some don't, some strictly live off the MSBU, others have volunteers. So it's a big discussion, I'm trying my best to have something for you guys in 2 weeks, but it's a lot to tackle in 2 weeks. I just, kind of want to give you guys a warning here as we head that way. We're gonna try our best, to get everybody on the same page. And it might be I can give you guys numbers and the cost, but a meeting with all the fire chiefs might happen after next meeting, once I have all the information, that I can have a productive meeting with with the fire chiefs in general. They used to have a board of some sort that kind of covered all the fire departments here in the county. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, to be very honest with you. I'll find out.
Do you have just a general pie-in-the-sky cost concept, or?
Of the repeater?
The repeater I do, but
Okay.
the repeater is more of an Appalachia deal.
Okay.
What she's asking for is a new system
Okay.
that all the fire departments.
So we have
can
no
use.
idea.
No.
Okay.
No, and I'm gonna reach out to
Yeah.
Renee and reach out to the fire coordinator, because Commissioner Bolt is correct. He showed us 2 different systems. One is the one with the phone, on everybody's cell phone, where they get a text and they could respond. Is that the same system, Renee, we talked about years ago, where you'll be able to track wherever they are once they respond on your
Well,
GIS?
when we
CAD?
discussed that, Apalachicola Fire Department had who's responding. Alligator Point has an app that's e-dispatch.
Yeah,
Like I said, everybody has
too fragmented, yeah. I
different
hear you.
things, and if everybody had across the board, who's responding does, if you have that program, you can track. But like I said, that's a whole
Yeah, I hear you.
another thing for
So
dispatch to do.
Yeah, and Commissioner Lockley, be assured, I will look at any other funding source and get the fire coordinator to tell me, if he knows of any grants that could help us.
And right now, Commissioner, so we're also waiting on our American Rescue Plan funds, because there were a few items in there where we were looking for alternative funding sources, so that may be something could come off and that can go in. So,
Yes.
we just have not heard back from Department of Economic Opportunity yet on the Hurricane Michael assistance grants. So.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
we'll keep looking.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, you can go ahead, I'm sorry.
Everybody okay? I want to also observe something here. We just had an interesting discussion relative to the draft budget that we have been looking at last couple of weeks, and I call it's a value-added embedded within our taxing system. And we just had this discussion about what can come out of a good product with taxing that we are doing, and what do the people get? This is not a willy-nilly, we're just going to need to raise taxes. We've got some actual life and health safety issues specifically on this discussion. And I hope the public will see the embedded value that is discussed here relative to taxation. Very, very practical points today. Renee, thank you for being here on my behalf. I just wanted to say that to you. I think this is a defining moment for us to get moving on this issue. You have my support.
Thank you.
Any more discussion before we vote? Oh, go ahead.
One more
Yep.
thing. There's no way, I heard Mr. Crosby get up and said the taxes, high, this, that, and other. This board, that's me. What they don't realize, whoever is telling them, whoever he conversates with, I'm not raising taxes just to be raised. I pay taxes too, just like all the rest of people do. Ain't nobody getting up and just raising people's taxes just to be raised. So, you hear a lot, but you got to leave and weigh out what you hear. Because people none of them don't want to pay none. I don't like to pay them either, but I got to do what I got to do. I got to pay them. And most of them got $1 billion and don't want to pay now penny. You got to watch.
Any more discussion on this motion? We kind of covered everything this morning.
We did.
We'll round it up and get ready to vote here if you
Poor
guys.
Renee's in the middle of a budget discussion.
You never know what's going to break out at the county commission meeting. Oh, Lord. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Renee.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, up next, Mr. Howard Neighbors, Superintendent of Roads and Bridges.
Good morning, Commissioners. How y'all doing?
Doing well. Howard, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. I have nothing for the board this morning.
All right.
I have something, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Neighbors.
How you doing, ma'am?
Good. I sent an email this morning to Virginia about a ditch, a culvert on Buck Streets in East Point
Okay.
there off Ridge.
Mhm.
It needs to be cleaned out. It's a lot of debris. You could see from the pictures, it's pretty much clogged. And if we had a storm event or rain event, it's probably gonna back up the area.
Okay, I checked that pipe again, Commissioner, but I did have Mr. David a couple of weeks, might have been 3 weeks ago, cleaned the stuff out. But I have to get in and look, maybe something way up in the middle of that pipe. But we'll check it out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I had one thing for Howard.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Howard.
How you doing, Mr. Bo?
Good, thank you. Howard, can you have your crew just inspect that road that starts on the eastern side of Carabel and goes, let me restate that. It starts on the eastern side of Carabel. It's called Route 30, and it traverses east to a junction there at 98. Along that road, can you just double check and make sure that the understory of those trees is cut high enough, allowing the clearance of high poles and antennae and fishing poles of boats that are coming through that way?
Okay, is that C30 on westbound? You
Yes.
talking about that area?
Yes,
Okay,
east or westbound from 98 into Carabel or the other way out.
we'll check it out.
Okay, thank you, and let me know, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and bring up y'all's handouts that Michael gave to you guys.
Yes.
I got a copy for you, Mr. Howard, I'll bring by, but meeting with FDOT that I had on Thursday, based on our concerns, each commissioner met with them and had concerns in their own district. So commissioners, if y'all look at your pages here, it's color-coded by area. And if you turn to the second page, it actually has in the comments of a category an immediate. So that means things that they're actually gonna be doing. And then it tells you what the comment is, work orders have been submitted. For example, they're changing the speed limit on Highway 65 upon my recommendation and ask. They're lowering it, because I think it's a safety issue with all the road department trucks and Humane Society and the landfill trucks pulling out. So they're gonna lower that speed limit. In addition to adding signage, adding no passing zones. The short term is things that we discussed that they're not really too keen on changing right now, but we'll look at and continue to look at in the future. And then, of course, long term means it's probably not gonna happen, so. And then there is corresponding pictures, and there is on this sheet here, where it says Florida Department of Transportation, it's got numbers, and the numbers correspond to the pictures. The letter is actual verbiage of what they're gonna do, and the pictures actually show you what they're gonna do, if that makes any sense. So the numbers on this letter here correspond to the pictures here that are numbered. So, Ms. Kim Hatcher and Kim Toole with FDOT stated to look it over. If y'all have any questions, to please feel free to contact them. So, one of them, Chairman Jones, is in your district, Bayshore Drive.
Yep.
So, and this is the speed studies that they performed, so.
Really?
They did speed studies on all these areas, and there's documentation here that states why they made the decisions they made, and why they made the changes they made based on these studies. So, if you want this, I'll give y'all this. I've got a couple copies of this, but I will forward a copy to you, Mr. Howard, so you can have it for your records.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
You know, Commissioner Ward, this is excellent. And I'm just wondering, to enhance this more, would it be appropriate for this material to be available on our county commission website? We have a link right now with regard to some of the up-to-date information on our funded projects. This seems to be something that's quite valuable.
I mean, it's, I don't know if Michael can scan it all in, it's
Is it
pretty,
appropriate?
yeah.
That's
I was actually gonna post to my personal, my commission page today on Facebook about stuff pertaining to my district with attached pictures. But, that's how I was gonna communicate it, but however y'all wanna do it,
Commissioners, I'll just scan the entire document, put it on our headlines.
You got a
On our
copy?
main page, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good. Great, thank you.
I think it's excellent because I've had people just in recent weeks asking me about some of the things that are on this
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
Well, what do you know? I said, well, I personally haven't heard back from them yet, but I'll be hopefully finding out. So I'm glad to see this morning.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
think it works
Well, there
really
was
well.
several
Thank
people
you.
there from FDOT, and like I said, she said to always reach out. A lot of these things that we ask for, we don't get, that's out of our control.
Yep.
But she did say that in the future, they can always come back with like a traffic signal, for example, on Avenue E here, downtown Appalach. The study did not warrant a
Yes.
traffic signal.
Yeah.
And there's documentation here about their rules and their laws as to why. So, I know the public wants certain things, but we did ask, there was FDOT doing the studies that said it does not warrant this or that for this particular reason, so. And if anybody wants to, I mean, I'll be happy to show anybody that wants to see this,
Yeah.
why they're.
I'll put a link to that too. I'll scan the one you
Sure.
gave me, put a link. Commissioner Ward, so the chairman asked me yesterday, I hate to be the man relaying questions, but the chairman asked me yesterday, did they give you like a specific time for the paving project from East Point to Carabel? More narrowed down,
Yes.
like, did they say in the spring of or the fall of? Did you
No.
just say,
No, on the back sheets that you, I don't have a copy here, but it's a long sheet, more like a legal size. That's actually the
Work plan?
98, the work plan for resurfacing. They said, I asked that specific question as well, and I believe her name, the engineer, the design person, I can't remember her name offhand, but anyway, she said, between 2023 and 2026, so I don't know.
So it's on their 5-year plan.
5-year work plan is exactly what she said,
Yeah.
so,
Sounds
I don't know.
I love Attorney Schuler's smile, because we've been down that road with it a few times, so.
The infamous 5-year work plan, yes.
They don't like to give you specific answers, so.
Well, at least it's on the plan.
And even on
though.
here, it
That's
doesn't, it
right.
doesn't state it either, it
Yeah.
just, like my crosswalk in Carabel, it just says that, constructed project to install signal, immediate, but it's probably gonna take, and I asked her again, spring 2023. So it's like, I thought it was this year, now it's next year, so.
Did they tie that to that specific project? That's why I was asking Michael. I figured they're
Yes.
gonna tie
I
the two
think
together.
Yes, a lot of the things I think they're waiting to do, especially with the striping, because they're gonna double stripe, for example, in Coastline. That was my concern with the restaurant is, it's a passing zone, and people would just pass there. I also wanted the speed limit lowered, but they didn't do that based on studies.
Yep.
But they are doing the double line, but like you said, Chairman, I think they're gonna wait until they start this resurfacing project before they do all this,
Right.
so.
Well, what's interesting in going through the process of even asking for, that this board agreed with, asking for a potential traffic signal at 98 and Island Drive in East Point. When you start getting into DOT stuff and how they look at warranting something, it's a pretty long process. And you have to meet multiple objectives on their warrant list for them to even consider
Sure
it.
enough.
I think it's probably in this book somewhere.
It's not just one, it's
Yeah.
not just because we all know it's a good idea, it has to fit their mold, if you will. So thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
On that same subject, I thought it was an excellent opportunity this spring when we met with 3 FDOT folks here in the private room. And I thought it was a very, very productive meeting. I'm wondering if we can consider meeting with them on a regular basis, maybe every 6 months at a minimum, to have these kinds of conversations.
Well, I think a lot of this, Commissioner, spurned from that.
Good.
And Commissioner Ward had just said a while ago that they were fine with us reaching out
Okay.
for stuff
All right.
anytime we had a
I
discussion.
heard that,
going forward.
yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Neighbors, I put that under your report, and I hate to hold you up, but I just thought that you needed to be included in the conversation, so.
You good?
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to add Leslie Street now with Howard?
Yes,
That's not really
please.
a Howard thing, but I could.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
If y'all go to my report, which is actually behind Aaron's report, item B, it says action item Leslie Street project. Sorry, the pages aren't numbered. Recently, the county received $248,127 from the city of Apalachicola as a reimbursement of CRA funds. Mayor Brenda Ash and City Manager Travis Wade asked if the county would be willing to use these funds to assist with repairing and reopening Leslie Street, which is, by the way, in the city's CRA district. The plan is to have the county reimburse the city of Apalachicola with proper documentation up to the $248,127 for engineering. I'm sorry, that should be more than engineering and construction. The city will use its staff to do as much of the repairs as possible to reduce construction costs as their in-kind contribution. Attached to my report is a City of Apalachicola's approved Dewberry Professional Services proposal for surveying, design, permitting, and contract administration for the Leslie Street repairs. Once this has been completed, an estimate for the construction costs will be presented to this board for consideration. So right now, we treat it like an FDOT project, basically. We're going to do the engineering and design first, and then we will go out for bids. If we approve the cost, go out for bids to actually do the construction and repair the road and open it back up. But today, I'm just asking the board to authorize the reimbursement as up to $16,467.50 to the city of Apalachicola for surveying, design, permitting, contract administration for Leslie Street repairs.
Question.
Sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You said it's CRA money?
Well, it's money that we gave the city for the CRA, but their CRA expired, so they had to reimburse the county back for that money. So that answer is kind of yes?
Nah, I guess my question will be, I guess it's more like a lawyer question.
I think so.
Can we take this money and do that?
Let me ask a question first before I answer that. Where was the $248,000 placed when it was refunded back to the county? Is it in general revenue?
In the general fund.
Yeah. Well, Commissioner, the board has traditionally, worked with both of the cities and helped them with various projects. I mean, we just did one with the city of Carabel, I think 50-50 on, what was the name of that road, Commissioner?
Ryan Drive.
Ryan Drive. So historically, the board has worked with both of the cities. I'm not sure what the total cost of the project is. I haven't looked at Mike's attachment. So, but yeah, I mean, the board, I believe, can help the city repair that street, and plus we need to get access back to the courthouse as well.
Yeah, I wanna help, but I just wanna make sure we can use the CRA money. That money would be sent back.
Yes, that's why I was making sure that it came back into the general fund, and it has gone into the general fund. But it's not, I wouldn't say the road is within the county or the cities of Apalachicola CRA, because my understanding is they no longer have a CRA district. Right. It's just a road within the city of Apalachicola.
Yes, but it wasn't the original CRA.
Yeah, it was within what used to be their CRA, yes, sir.
Yeah, it need to be open. I wanna see it open, but I wanna make sure we can do that. I ain't got no problem with it.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
And Mr. Chairman, the reason I was asking about Howard, I just wanted Howard to be aware of, it's the city that's gonna be doing the work down there. They're gonna use their road department to do the
Okay.
work. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Anything else for Mr. Neighbors, Commissioners? Mr. Howard, thank you, and thank y'all for everything y'all do on behalf of us and the residents of Franklin County every day.
Yes, thank y'all, Commissioner.
All right. Up next, Mr. Fonda Davis, Solid Waste Director.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I have no action item. I do have a few things for your information. Last meeting, Commissioner Bolt, you mentioned about Clash Laurie Park needing some repairs. I just want to let you know they have begun. Again, the playground system is there. The other thing is in the solid waste, we if you remember back when we was trying to get the permit renewed, DEP brought to our attention about removing some debris that was over the height that we are permitted for at the 65 feet. Well, anyway, we've been doing that, working on that, trying to get it done right along with everyday operation. Just keeping you abreast of what's going on. Just want to let you know we may have to rent a dozer to help move that where we can meet that timeline. We may have to. We do not. The county do not own a dozer, We do have a 963 that was recently purchased, but the 963 do not have a blade that will allow us to push and finish like we need. Just want to let you all know that.
Mr. Chairman, can you just rent the blade instead of renting a dozer, or?
To go on the 963, no.
Okay.
No, we don't have, it's not set up for the attachments. Yes. We're gonna, you know, try to wait it out and hopefully we can get it with what we have already. Yeah.
What is the new height limit that you're reducing those piles by? You're at 65 feet?
We need to reduce it to 62 and a half. We have, by the time we put the clay and sand and the final cover, then we'll be at the 65 feet.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Davis, commissioners?
I got something.
Go ahead.
Talk to him. Brother David, we help the city pick up trash,
Yes, sir.
but, what I want you to do, get with Mike, and y'all go talk to some people and tell them that we're not gonna pick up in front of these empty houses. They got to do that. We helping them because we wanna try to keep 3 clean. It's in the city limit. They supposed to be doing it.
Okay.
And tell them all the empty houses, that trash in front of them, that's gonna be their responsibility. We just gonna pick up in front of the residents.
Yes,
And tell
sir.
them it's about time for them to start getting them a boom truck.
Any other commissioners have anything for Mr. Davis today?
But also,
Go ahead.
we did receive the new animal control truck that we was, the other one that's on the last leg. So we had received a new one, and hopefully we'll put it on line today after the board meeting.
Okay. Mr. Davis, thank you for everything you do, and thank your group for what y'all do for the county.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Emergency Management Director, see, it was for Ms. Pram, but I see Ms. Jennifer Daniels. Please proceed.
Good morning, Commissioners.
morning.
We do not have any action items on our report today, but I'm here if you have anything for me.
Any questions, Commissioners? Concerns?
I do, the board
Okay.
doesn't. Hey, Jen, is there any possibility you could do some research with DEM and see if they have funding for radio systems for the fire departments, radio and or paging? Is that possible?
Absolutely. I'll see what I can find out.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Is anything else, Commissioners?
Y'all storm ready?
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
You knew it was coming, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm hoping we have a year we don't have to worry about it, but you know, we'll see how that goes.
Me too.
Yes,
We
we're
need a
doing a whole
normal-
lot of praying too.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have just a normal, nothing out unusual, like a worldwide pandemic or a fire that destroys 10% of a community or
A
a
Cat
Cat 5
5
hurricane, you know, just a normal year.
That's,
That'd be great.
so that's your definition of normal.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Thank y'all for everything you do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director for IFAS.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. Eric.
Same thing here. I do not have any action items for the board today.
All right, any questions or concerns, Commissioners? Mr. Eric, thank y'all for everything you do on behalf of the residents of the county. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you guys as well.
Yes, sir. All right, we're gonna move next to Mr. Steve Patterson. Ms. Roundtree is not feeling well
Thank you, sir.
today, so we're gonna move her to the next meeting, our library director.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is there an action item we need to address on Ms. Roundtree?
She said we have time, so we could address it at the next
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
So I'd rather her be here, Commissioner, to explain, in case you have
I
questions.
just wanted, if it was time sensitive, I didn't want to delay.
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for the question, Commissioner.
Thank
That is good to know. Mr. Patterson?
Good morning, Commissioners. I see we got the air conditioner working this week. I have a couple of items. Ordinance number 9210, which requires a minimum of 12 gauge wire installed. I would like to see that ordinance either sunsetted or whatever we need to do with that, because the Florida Building Code allows for 14 gauge wire on 15 amp circuits. So, and staying with the Florida Building Code and the National Electric Code, I think that one is an old one that we should probably
Right.
see go away.
Mr. Patterson, I want to make sure everybody's aware of what we're talking about. So 14 gauge is actually smaller than 12 gauge?
Correct.
Yes, okay. Just make sure everybody was aware of what distinction you're trying to make.
Let me ask a question, sir. So do you want the whole ordinance or just that language removed? You want Attorney Schill to amend the process to amend it or to sunset it?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson spoke with me last week about the proposal that he's presenting to the board this morning. And if the board accepts, I believe, both of his recommendations, I think he's got one more coming. The appropriate board action would be for the board to authorize me to schedule a public hearing so that you can consider amending the ordinances to reflect the changes being recommended to you this morning by Mr. Patterson.
Okay.
But that would be the only action that you would take this morning.
Okay. All right.
The other ordinance I want to take a look at is 93.5, and in this ordinance, it's our county specialty contractors licenses, and I would like to see those done away with. Because they're not, the state has certain categories that the state requires a license for, and with our county specialty license, we're running into a conflict with the state because the individuals are, they're licensed and insured with the county, but the state doesn't recognize the license, so they get in trouble with the state for having a contract as a licensed contractor when the state doesn't recognize their license. So we're the only county that I know of that has these specialty licenses. Everybody that has one now, they will still be able to continue to work in the same fashion that they are currently working. So it's just going to be one less thing for them to deal with us.
Well, and as I understood it, in talking to you, Mr. Patterson, the issue you're trying to address is twofold. Number one, we can always be stricter than the state, but we cannot be more lenient. And us allowing that in times past actually made us more lenient than what the
Correct.
state was. And the other thing is, it doesn't change the issue as far as the work being performed, because I, as a homeowner, I can go pull a permit and hire the contractor.
Or contractor can hire them, and these specialty licenses can't pull permits anyway.
Right.
So it's not really, it doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore at this point in time.
Yeah, so they can still work, and the chairman is absolutely right. It's just the way that the permit is pulled is a different fashion from now on, basically, is what's happening. But we're trying to make sure we get in accordance with the state.
I do have an item also that is not on the agenda, that someone came to me last week, I think it's last week, and mentioned that their neighbor was converting one of these portable sheds into a Airbnb. These sheds are not permitted as habitable structures by the state. They say on them not for human habitation, they're for storage only. We have people constantly calling our department, sending in plans for them, wanting to turn them into houses. People, not necessarily local people, but a lot of people that are moving into the area. They buy a piece of land, they go to the Wakulla County or Bluntstown where they sell the sheds, and those people say, oh yes, you can make it a house, because they have some that the models are cabins and they're models, but they do not meet the Florida Building Code for the standards of a habitable structure. So I would like the board to look at maybe looking into an ordinance to prohibit the use of them as occupied dwellings, so that we have a ordinance to refer people to and for the ones that are turning them into, because ones that have already been permitted as sheds are now being converted into Airbnbs in people's yards. It's,
Can I ask a question?
yes, sir.
So under our land use stuff, if I buy a piece of property, a shed is a secondary structure, correct?
Correct.
So aren't they already not supposed to be able to get a permit for a secondary structure till they have a primary?
They're doing it on their primary structures. They're doing it in, they get a shed, so they have 2 acres or an acre, and they get a shed on their property, and then later they're coming back, you know, without permits, they go in and they plumb it and wire it and turn it into a.
I agree with you, but I was just
And
wanting to make sure I understood.
that's I've had somebody reported that to me. They wouldn't tell me who it was, but I'm going to be able to find it because they said it was one of their neighbors, so that kind of narrows it down. But I was told that there are lots of them that are popping up out there that
Yeah. Well, it's going to be different also going forward to know that people cannot anonymously complain about stuff anymore. They have to make sure that they, you know what I mean? It's one thing to discuss something with you, but if they have a valid complaint, they need to submit it just like everybody else. And there needs to be a paper trail attached to it.
That's why they wouldn't give me a name.
Yeah, it's all good.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Any questions, commissioners? Are you guys good with scheduling this public hearings to amend these ordinances and potentially create another one? That's what we're doing, right?
That's what I'm hearing is the recommendation for the third item from the building official.
Right.
I will look at that. I tend to think we probably already have an enforcement mechanism because
Okay.
it's already a violation of existing state law.
Right.
Sounds like a wonderful opportunity to pursue our new code enforcement.
Well, it just needs to be
ordinance.
something that's definitely cut and dry either way.
The other thing the ordinance would provide is when the people trying to, we waste a lot of time with people trying to get these permitted as houses because they won't take no for an answer. When you say it's, you know, it's a back and forth constantly with them. I mean.
I'm not objecting to a local ordinance. I'm saying we probably already have an enforcement mechanism in place, but I also agree with belts and suspenders, so.
Okay.
Do we need, Mr. Chairman?
We ain't got no code enforcement.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So, Commissioners, if the board accepts all 3 of the recommendations, then it would, one motion authorizing me to schedule a public hearing on all 3 of those items would be sufficient.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion, Commissioner? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Patterson walks away, this morning, there was a public comment regarding Lanark Village and the procedure for pulling a permit. And I saw the expression of some of your faces that you weren't quite sure the points you was trying to get across. And what I'd like is a building official to explain to you, when somebody in the special district within Lanark Village, they approach to pull a permit, what your building department tells them, because I think it'll clarify the point Ms. Jordan was trying to make this morning on the public comment. So if someone comes to you, Steve, you, Angela, and say, hey, I want to pull a permit for, I don't know, a shed, hate to use that word, in Lanark Village within the special district, there's an ordinance there about a review committee. So what do you guys tell the public?
So we make them give their review before they present it to us, because of, we've had issues in the past with them where they would submit their plans to us and then it has to go to the review. Well, once we take a set of plans in and an application for a permit, the clock starts ticking and we have a limited amount of time to get a permit issued or denied. And when we're waiting on, in the past, we had issues getting their review board.
There's a review board
to respond to us on a timely manner. So we make the applicants get their review done before, and the approval from the Lanark Review Board before they present it to us.
That's the key. There's a Lanark Review Board that in certain areas in Lanark Village they give their recommendation or they give their recommendation whether for or against about a particular project. So because of the new state rules against the building department saying, once you accept a building application, it clocks on. What the building department said, okay, go ahead and get your review done, turn that in with your building permit application so they can start working on it immediately based on the recommendation from this Lanark Village Review Board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
why do they have a Leonardo Village Review Board?
Why?
Yeah, does any other community have that?
No, that's an ordinance,
So why do they have it?
it's an ordinance, correct?
To change the ordinance.
One question, do they still have a special district
Yeah.
in Leonardville? What is it for?
It's based on the fact that they were an old Army barracks. They have a unique community. They're more densely packed in together, so to speak, than the rest of the county. And so a special district was created just for Lanark Village. And frankly, it doesn't include everything in the geographic area that we would think of as Lanark Village. It only applies to a portion of the area that we would think of as Lanark Village. I'm not able to give you, by chapter and verse and streets, the exact area within Lanark that is part of that special district. But that review board requirement is embedded in your ordinances.
Was a special, Mr. Chairman, was a special district created by the county commission?
It's part of your zoning code, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. So they're like a mini planning and zoning board almost for Lanark Village, to be very honest with you, Commissioner Parrish.
Yeah, but I just don't.
I know.
I
that
don't
was
understand it because.
Before my time. So.
And as I understand the attorney's points and what he's trying to explain, but you got these barracks and all.
Mm-hmm.
What is the review committee addressing within those boundaries because there's old barracks there? I mean, I don't understand.
I hate to look at the building visual, but it's.
Is it more, it can't be no more density than what's there with the old barracks. I mean, so.
They fight over.
What are we reviewing?
They have.
What are they reviewing?
I don't know.
Let me ask a question. I know that's a question. I'm not trying to cut it off. I know that they have had this special district in the past. They have had a review board. The significant change is we have now, all counties, have been given a mandate from the state of Florida that once we receive a permit, the clock starts.
Yep. That's the
So
problem.
we need to address what's going on with this to make sure that the residents are able to get things done in a timely manner. Any special district, any review committee is not to hinder what the property owner is trying to do. It's there to help forward it and just put it through the right channels. So, I'm not trying to take away from, I perceive that to be a hard question to answer today, what Commissioner Parrish asked. But, I do think that we need to find a way, if it's gonna stay this way, to streamline it. If we need to change it, evidently it's something we created anyway, or the board did. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is there a way of limit or giving the special district or the review board a certain amount of time to review these projects? If they don't, they give up the right to review it and the homeowner or the property owner is able to move forward.
I think the best thing for me to do is to give each of you a copy of the ordinance, highlight exactly where that is in the ordinance, and we have this discussion into our next regular meeting. Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I want to emphasize the importance and the integrity and the identity of the Lanark Village folks. And having a review board is one more opportunity for them to participate in county governance. And I applaud their review board from a quality assurance standpoint. Now, I think we can streamline it a little bit, but I am in favor of keeping that review board. It's one of the ways that I think that those folks have an opportunity to speak exactly what they feel is right.
Well, let me clear something up. Commissioner Bolt, I hope I didn't give you the wrong impression by saying they're like a mini planning and zoning board. They don't have like a hearing where the general public of Lanark Village can come and listen to them. It's a two-member board?
I only know I've only dealt with one
Okay, so
that makes the
it should be
decision.
supposed to be 2 or 3. But anyway, that person just goes out, look at it, and makes a determination if they support this or not. So that's why I think, Commissioner Bolt, you might be right. It might be a time to look at it again. Well, basically, I'm hearing what the board is saying, to see if it needs to stay in existence or it needs to change the process in which this board acts. I firmly believe that. That's why I said I think the best thing to do is to give you guys a copy of the ordinance, highlight it, and then at the next meeting discuss what direction we should go. And I just didn't want everyone to leave with the impression is that that board acts in the same manner as your planning and zoning does, where the public has a chance to participate, say yea or nay, whether they like it, they don't like it. That is not the case.
Mr. Chairman, but we just heard him state there's you state it's a two-person board.
Yeah, I say two.
Now, he's
one.
only dealt with one person.
Yeah.
So one person
maybe
looks at this stuff, and I understand what Commissioner Bolt was saying about it gives the public an opportunity, but it only gives an opportunity to one or two people. I mean, come on now.
That might have been.
That ain't like our planning and zoning board.
Exactly.
Which has a number of members from a lot of different facets of life. But my problem is, if they gonna have the review board, whatever you call it, it needs to be done in a timely manner. In other words, he don't want to take their application because the clock starts. But if this person ain't able to review for 3 or 4 months, then the property owner can't move forward, is what I'm trying to say. But it don't need to be reviewed by one person. Now, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
That one person holds all the chains that determines what a property owner can do in Lanark Village. Now, that ain't right. That's like a dictatorship.
That might have been the complaint for the public comment, if I understand it correctly.
I don't know, but I'm just going by what Mr. Patterson's telling us, and
yeah.
I ain't dealt with one person on this review board. That's not a review board, in my opinion.
Yes.
That's one person. How does that turn out to be something good for that community? When one person reviews this stuff. I mean, something needs to be looked at. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, I'll make a note. It'll be in the next agenda.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. I agree with all of that. I think we can help people help themselves and help streamline this and give them some guidance.
Anything else, Mr. Patterson?
That's it.
Any
Okay.
board members have anything else for Mr. Patterson while he's here?
What can I do with machines?
Store stuff in.
Can I make it a climate control?
You could put air conditioner in the shed. I mean, there's nothing.
You just can't plumb it, Mr. Chairman, sorry, you just can't plumb it and turn it into a house and have a bathroom in there, electricity.
I like to use the bathroom when I'm working in the machine.
Sound like a problem.
Commissioner Lockheed's looking at somewhere to stay when he's in trouble.
There you go.
Commissioner, you're in the city of Apalachicola. You can do whatever you want with your shed.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a buzzer?
No, we don't have a buzzer, but your time's up.
Buzzer,
so thank you.
horn, air horn, something.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Lord Jesus. Miss Angela Lawley,
Hopefully Angela has all good news.
floodplain administrator.
Won't
I
get us
do
in
have
trouble
good
at all.
news, yes. Good morning, Commissioners. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on our CRS, the Community Rating System participation. As you all know, we're currently ranked at a Class 7 participant, which provides Franklin County property owners with a 15% discount on flood insurance. Each year, participating communities are required to submit all the flood certificates for structures that have been completed during the reporting period. Participating counties are required to maintain 90% correctness rate in order to continue participation with CRS program. I just completed my second annual reporting cycle with CRS as the Franklin County coordinator, and I'm proud to announce that we achieved a 99% correctness rating this year, and Franklin County homeowners will continue to enjoy the 15% discount on flood insurance.
Good.
Way to go. Thank you.
Good job.
That is good.
What the highest you can do?
Let's make
I'm sorry?
What is the highest?
That was 99% out of 100. So we had one small clerical error on one of the flood certificates that we had.
No, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about what the highest rating. You said we had a 7.
We're at a 7, yes, sir. So it's ranked from 10 down to 1.
Okay.
I think the prerequisite to get to a 6 is kind of a steep one. We are trying to see if we can get there with some of the things that we've put in place, like our GIS maps and our new website, hopefully. We've got our new permitting system that will it's made everything a lot more accessible to people online, so they can apply and follow the whole process, start to finish. Their whole project can be, handled online. So a lot of those things that we've put in place over the last year are hopefully going to help us to get to that level 6.
And Commissioner, I think some of the stuff with the CRS rating also is reflective on us having volunteer fire departments. I could be wrong, but I think that's part of it.
There are a lot of components to it. I actually have a cycle visit in November. I'm working directly with the individual that's going to be overseeing that, and he's walking me through it because this will be my first visit. So he is he's kind of baby stepping me all the way through it and helping me. So I haven't actually been through
the whole process.
That process yet.
Right.
But as we go through each step, he's letting me know ahead of time, how that looks and if that's acceptable for the November deadline. So hopefully in November we'll be able to get to that level 6.
Good.
That's the goal.
Thank you so much. Any questions or concerns? Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to encourage, if it's appropriate, for you to dispatch a public service announcement of how you were able to keep our savings on that insurance rating under control, like the report that you just gave us. Right in the middle of the tax year, here is an opportunity for our people to save money, and you've helped that.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to encourage you to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Angela. Oh, did you have something, Commissioner? Sorry.
No, I was just saying thank you. This is
Okay.
good job.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Mr. Ted Mosteller, Interim Airport Manager.
Good morning, Commissioner, staff.
Good morning.
I have no particular action items, but we do have some discussion possibly. As I've mentioned, we're having more problems, and the new 997 is still in the shop for warranty work. I make special note that Tim Butler has hauled excess dirt from the Casper Lease site to sinkholes out on the field. Then we tried to level this dirt out, and the 5520 tractor blew another hydraulic cylinder, which I had to carry to Tallahassee for overhaul. The 110 is still in the shop. Hopefully, I did contact them last week, and they said it'd be soon. It's the only word I could get out of them. Parts are still back ordered. We do have pre-bid conferences this Thursday, August 4th, for the fuel farm and obstruction projects at the FBO conference room.
What
If
time
anyone
is
is, sir?
What time?
At 11 and 1. The obstruction is at 11, and the fuel farm is at 1. The 20-foot bat wing is that we ordered it seems like years ago. It's been a while. Is due, actually. We have a due date. It's supposed to be on the road. It should be here the 4th of August. Our master plan is, I think Michael has some words to say about the master plan update. And I believe that's about it for the moment. Any discussion or any questions I could answer?
I know it's a difficult time, but it'll be nice when some of these parts and stuff start to be better. But trust me, I completely understand what you're saying, and I completely concur because I try to sell parts every day.
Yes, sir.
It is difficult.
Mr. Chairman, if you guys would go to my report, since Ted is here. Item C, it's on the first page of my report. The county has received the final draft AAF master plan update documents, which includes all comments provided by the board during last year's presentation. You will receive links to these documents later this afternoon for your review and comments. Ted, I'll print a copy of it for you and let you know when it's ready, okay?
Fantastic.
Links to these documents that may include some of the commissioner's comments as markups will be on the county's website on August 15th until September 15th for public review and comments. At your September 20th regular meeting, the final draft of the master plan, update documents with comments will be presented for your approval and for submission. So basically, you guys will get it today, links today, and you, as a working document. If you need a printed copy, you prefer that, I can do that. Or you could just send me emails and say, hey, Michael, I want, you know, to add this comment, and then I'll present your comments along with the draft that we have for the public. It'll be for the public for 30 days, and after that, at your second meeting in September, it'll be brought to you for your review, your final review, and approval and submission.
And no to comment, also, I have some comments about some things that are in that master plan.
That's fine. And now is the time, Ted, I'll prefer that you do yours with the commissioners, so it's included for the public. The public sees the commissioner's comments and your comments on it, okay?
Okay.
And there's probably already some of the comments that we received before.
Yes.
That have been added to this
Yes.
anyway. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Ward.
I was going to say the
Okay.
same thing. I just want to make a point, Mr. Chairman, sorry,
Yeah.
that the community can also go here and look at this master plan and make comments as well.
Yes, it'll be
I want to
available.
make that note for the record, for the individuals that want input.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll make it available for the public on the 15th. So the reason I'm delaying is to give you guys an opportunity to make your comments so the public sees what was incorporated from the last presentation, plus any recent comments from the board and from Ted. So there'll be one common place to go look and see everything at the same time.
Okay.
Everyone good with that? But I will urge this, commissioners, at your second meeting in September when it comes before you, I would really encourage that we approve it then and send it on, because for a few reasons. One was the boundary issue. It took a long time to get that worked out. We're running late. I mean, we're like really late with this, so we need to get this done and get it on to the FAA, FDOT, ASAP, based on the timeline I just gave you.
Yes.
Okay.
One
Is this something
thing
we
I-
need to vote on, Michael, or no?
I'm sorry.
No, I just kind of want to let you know I had it for discussion item in case you guys had anything else you wanted to add to it.
Okay.
Another quick comment, I failed to mention the bids that we will pre-bid conference on Thursday are due September 2nd. And they will be open the 6th of September at your meeting,
Okay.
as scheduled at the moment.
Good. And then after that, once it's selected, we could start the work. That's good, Ted. Good job.
But, Mr. Morone, while Mr. Ted is still here, would it be appropriate for us to go to Ms. Griffin's report, item B, since it does involve the airport?
Okay, item B, it was actually included as part of the agenda packet. Let's see, Franklin County Airport as site location for Aviation Center, Project Pebble. Last week, with assistance from Opportunity Florida, Franklin County submitted a proposal to Florida's Great Northwest for Project Pebble. Florida's Great Northwest is a regional economic development organization for the 12-county region of Northwest Florida. The proposal highlights Franklin County's strengths for consideration among other Northwest Florida counties for the relocation of a 100,000 square foot airplane repair and rehabilitation building. Board action to approve the submission of the attached proposal for consideration to Florida's Great Northwest for Project Pebble.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion?
100,000 square foot
Building.
building,
Yep.
pretty good.
Yes, Commissioner, it would be, the proposed site is actually off of the airport access road and the industrial site. That's, you know, of course, off the runways, but it would be aviation use as well, so
Put people to work.
Yes.
that would be nice.
Yep.
But it is a competition type.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they talked about, if they're able to do it, it's gonna provide at least 50 good paying jobs. Yeah.
Okay. We need it.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Michael, do you have that video available?
I was gonna say, do you wanna do it, have it ready, so Ted, if you would stay till after the break, I know it's,
Yeah,
we're
we'll
gonna
take a break, we'll
There's a
come back and
video
show the
that
video.
Opportunity Florida did about the airport, I need you to be here to see it, I'm gonna share it on the screen. Thank you so
So let's
much.
take a 5-minute break and we'll come back to that and then go to Ms. Cook.
Okay.
All right? Franklin County Board of Commissioners is now back in session. We're going to start with this short video presentation about the airport, then we'll go to Ms. Gladys Cook talking about the Housing Summit update.
Okay, so Erin, are you gonna bring up the Northwest Greater North after I do the video? That other item in your report?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. You want to do it after video or before? Okay.
Commissioners, I'll let Commissioner Ward, since she sits on Enterprise Florida, explain that the main reason for developing this video is a selling point, et cetera, et cetera.
Just, I do sit on that board. We talked about this, gosh, it's been a while back about this video. It was a motion on the board for them to go proceed with it, and I think it turned out great. It shows the potential of our airport and making it, as Commissioner Lockley likes to say, jobs. So hopefully that's just the beginning of things to come.
And I'll ask Erin to read item C on her report, as this all ties in together with joining Florida Great Northwest, getting a membership with that group, because it helps exposes us to even more people for opportunities, for economic opportunities.
Item C, Commissioners. Franklin County is not currently a member of Florida's Great Northwest, but 9 of the 12 counties in the service area are. As Florida's Great Northwest has access to many leads and marketing opportunities for economic development, would the board like to consider becoming an investor member of Florida's Great Northwest at an annual support level of $1,000? Board action to approve investor membership with Florida's Great Northwest for assistance, promotion, and advocacy of economic opportunities in the region.
So move. So move.
Okay, a motion approved by Commissioner Bolt,
Second with comment.
second by Commissioner Ward. Please proceed, Commissioner.
I think this $1,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to how much money that they could bring into our airport, into our region. So that's why I'm supporting this.
Under discussion, Ms. Griffith, what does it mean to be an investor member?
That is actually what they call their membership, and just to kind of read off to you who the other members are. Let's see here. Okay, the investor benefits are a voting member of the marketing committee, access to Florida's Great Northwest lobbyist and timely legislative updates, customized data reports and regional economic insights from Florida's Great Northwest Business Intelligence Manager, features on the logo and contact information, access to economic development leads generated by the organization, opportunity to respond to an economic development project request for proposals, which is the, actually that's where Project Pebble came from. Invitation to participate in marketing committee related events, including but not limited to outbound site selector missions, inbound site selector missions, marketing committee retreats, and special features in digital and print advertising, marketing, and public relations efforts. Research assistance for projects, including but not limited to economic impact analysis, and special features in software tools such as GIS web search and the interactive industrial site map, and other specialized marketing efforts. The other regional members include the Bay Economic Development Alliance, Florida West Economic Development Alliance, Gulf County Economic Development Coalition, Holmes County Development Commission, Jackson County Economic Development Council, One Okaloosa Economic Development Council, Santa Rosa County Economic Development Office, Walton County Economic Development Alliance, and Washington County Economic Development Alliance. Some good member counties.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote?
Yeah, y'all know whether they help any of them counties get any work there?
We can definitely reach out to them.
And see how much projects that they led that way. I'll find out for you.
Yeah, find out there. I mean, it's a good thing.
So are they?
They know more people than we know, I put it that way.
They do.
Yeah.
They know more people than we know, and they got contact. It can't hurt.
Yeah, their net's much larger than ours, Commissioner.
Right, and that would, yeah.
And they're basing our membership dues on our population, correct?
That is correct. For counties with a population of less than 25,000 residents, that's $1,000 annually. For counties with a population between 25,000 and $100,000, the cost is $5,000 annually. And for counties with a population of above 100,000, it would be a $10,000 member contribution.
Okay.
But now we've been to vote on
1,000.
whether to join it or not.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if it passed, I would like y'all to put in there, make a note, let them know we need some jobs.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. All right.
Okay, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. So now we head from the one side of economic opportunity to the other problem, which is housing. If you guys are aware, Ms. Gladys Cook, she can go ahead and unmute. We had a housing summit here a week and a half ago, roughly. And so I asked her to come back and update the board on that summit and kind of give us some next steps. Based on what she heard, what does she recommend we start to work towards? So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, good morning to, and I believe she's shared the screen, so she's.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Gladys.
Are we live? Am I here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Well, good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me today to give a recap of the Housing Summit on July 19th. And I also want to thank you for hosting the Housing Summit, especially Chairman Jones and Administrator Moron for helping make it all happen. So for the record, my name is Gladys Cook. I'm the Director of Resilience and Disaster Recovery for the Florida Housing Coalition. We're a statewide nonprofit organization. We provide technical assistance and training throughout Florida to support all types of affordable housing. So the summit was actually sponsored by Florida Housing Finance Corporation, which is where the SHIP program is administered, as well as many of the other housing programs like the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit program. And the Florida Housing Coalition is the technical assistance provider for Florida Housing Finance Corporation. So at the summit, we had a pretty robust agenda. I'm not going to go through anywhere near of that, of course, today. I just want to give you a recap of what we did and what we learned and some recommendations. But we had about 20 people in the chambers and 10 to 15 on the Zoom feed. We had 4 elected officials in the room, and we thank Commissioner Ward and Bolt for joining and participating. We also had 2 other speakers, Ms. Rose Griffin, who's your new SHIP administrator, and Ms. Mary Williams, who's the housing coordinator for Florida Division of Emergency Management. There was a good amount of discussion, and there seemed to be a consensus on the need for more housing, and lots of questions about how to get it done. I have some excerpts here. the definitions, we wanted to get everybody on the same page. So basically affordable housing, it costs somewhere around 30% of the household's income. It's supposed to include rent plus utilities or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. 30% is kind of naive these days, but that's just the rule of thumb. And if a household pays more than their gross income on housing, they're considered cost burdened. And so if you pay over between 30 to 50%, you're just cost burdened. But if you're paying over 50% of your gross income on housing, you're severely cost burdened. And that's the kind of data that we have. We know, we hear about the affordable housing crisis, and I spoke to a number of your employers and people in the community, and the crisis is really the result of high land costs and high construction costs, and so the private market doesn't produce the housing that's needed for our lower income and workforce households. For the record, sheds are not affordable housing. Affordable housing is quality housing, and it meets all codes, and it's energy efficient. So just to let you know on that one. So the definitions, we use the area median income as the baseline, and then it's based on family size. So, and then we have these categories. So we have extremely low income, and that's for households that are below 30% of the area median income. Very low income is at or below 50% of the area median income. Your tax credit projects have to be below 60% area median income. Low income is below 80%, and then we have workforce, two definitions, either 120 or 140%. And I'd like for us to call this our middle income, because these are the people that don't qualify for the tax credit projects or public housing, and they can't afford to purchase in your current market or even rent. So those are more your middle income. So you can see below there, your median income has steadily gone up. It's now at 61,800. So it means 50% of the people make more than that and 50% below. So the only way to catalyze housing that serves lower income households is through some kind of action. If you do nothing, you won't get it. And so these are the things you're familiar with: purchase assistance on below market rate rental housing. So we looked at the needs, and I'll just breeze through these, but basically this is your median income by tenure, meaning your owner median income is about $51,684, and renters are much further below at $34,311. So renters have lower income. And then looking at the cost burden, remember I mentioned that if you pay over 30%, your cost burden; if you pay over 50%, you're severely. This is broken down into your income category. So we start with the ELI, the 30%, the very low, and you can see that the lower your income, the higher the more you're likely to be severely cost burdened, and those are real numbers. So it just kind of shows you where who's cost burdened. So in all of the households for low income and cost burden, there's 639. This is 2020 census data. It's what we have. And so we will consider that your total unmet housing need is by cost burden. So on renters, there's about 200 that are low income and cost burdened, meaning there's lower income people that cannot afford housing. And then for your owners, there's 439 low income cost burden households. And what that means to me is, yeah, you already own your home, but these are likely to be your homeowners who need some type of housing rehab. They don't have the money to mitigate for a disaster or to generally keep improving the home. So we looked at your industry, and these are the top 10 employment categories. The far right column there is the number of workers, and it's organized by that. So your most workers is in the service providing industry, and again, a little bit of naivete. We've got like a 2-bedroom fair market rent, which is set by HUD at $786. You don't have that in Franklin County. But that level of income can technically afford 863, so they're not that much in trouble, that sector. But then you can see the ones we've highlighted where the leisure and hospitality, transportation, utilities, food services, and then down at retail trade, those are work categories who would have a cost burden. And again, the 786 is naive, so just take that with a grain of salt. But we also noticed that there's 1,402 workers in Franklin County who commute in. And so we talked about the renters there, we talked about the owners. These are what I call buyers. And these are people that your employers have told me that they've offered jobs to people, but they can't move here because they can't find housing. It's not because all of the housing is super expensive, it's because you don't have the inventory, it's not there. So that's another sector that would be needing housing. So then we did a couple examples just to show, like, if you're going to purchase a house, and here's a really inexpensive one at $175,000. And we took these lower income categories, and the point about purchase assistance is there's a gap between what you qualify with the bank and then what it costs. And that's where we put our SHIP money to bridge that gap. And so people that are in the 50% AMI, they can't even pay the insurance and the taxes on their houses. So they're just out of the game completely. Their income isn't enough to pay that. When you get into the higher income, the 80% or the low income, so to speak, they would need $22,000, $23,000 in subsidy to buy that cheap house, okay? But then when you get into the higher income, those people don't need subsidy. That's over there on the right column. And so that's kind of the amount that they could afford. But then we looked at a more realistic priced house, and even this is low, I know, but this is now for a 4-person household, and we're looking at them already coming up with 10,000 down and 10,000 closing. So that 50%, they can't afford anything. The 80% would even need too much subsidy. But when you get into the 120 and the 140, the 70,000 subsidy and the 77,000, that's much more realistic. And so that's where why we see that income level of homeowner, if you put together the right purchase assistance, they could actually buy a home. So the takeaways on that is affordable housing, rental is kind of still out of reach. Taxes and insurance as a percentage of the mortgage amount pushes your lower income buyers out of eligibility. And at the meeting, someone said, what about insurance? And I said, I got nothing on insurance. It's just happening. We're all kind of stumped over that. Your SHIP purchase assistance is $10,000 to $15,000. That's not really adequate for the current priced homes. There are some that you're assisting, but I think it's much more inexpensive manufactured housing. And then employers are challenged to attract workers to live in the county due to the shortage of affordable housing. So we looked at what you have on the ground, what's happening. And so your SHIP program, this is what your 2022-23 LHAP has, that you're going to do 5 units with down payment assistance, 4 units in owner-occupied rehab, and then you've got about 6 units with disaster recovery grants. You're still working on recovery. This is your summary from 2019-2020. You did 20 homes, and that's the breakdown in purchase assistance, rehab, and emergency repair. And then on the right there is kind of just a breakdown of the budget. You ended up with $376,000 to use. And then the average cost in the lower right corner there for these things is for down payment assistance was $10,800. you did a lot of emergency repair, well, two. The average cost of that was $4,659, and then your owner occupied rehab is $21,682, and you did 12 of those. And so that is pointing out this need for owner occupied rehab, which is just going to be ongoing. So let me see, you out of the way. So your low-income housing tax credit properties, well, we'll talk about those in a second. These are some facts about Hurricane Michael impacts. And so you had 1,732 applicants for FEMA. You had 501 which had high severe damage. 1,259 of those were owners and 456 renters. And here's the part that to target any kind of assistance is you had 32 that had access and functional needs that applied for FEMA help. And then you had 506 that were over age 65, and then 915 living in a flood zone. And so that's where you would target that type of assistance. Over on the right, I just wanted to point out that almost half of the households with major severe damage are low and moderate income. So 229 out of that 501 are low income. So, and that shows up statewide with Hurricane Irma. 75% of the severe damage was to people making 40% of that area median income. I won't get into more of that, but I'm the disaster recovery director, so I tend to focus on those things. So you received 1.8 million in the Hurricane Housing Recovery Program, and that's going very well. We are your advisor on that, and so we were working with your former ship administrator. We'll be picking that up, and we've been doing a lot of training with your new ship administrator. So these are incomplete, but this is just showing you where that money was going. And the average cost, which always interests me, the home repair, 40,000, the manufactured home repair, 18,000, and then you did a lot of manufactured home replacement. You didn't replace any site-built homes, but a lot of the funding goes to manufactured housing. And then the on the right, below right, it shows you where these people worked to show the workforce element of this. So I found that interesting, where the amount of expended funds into those industries. So you also have your regulatory incentives. You have your local housing assistance plan. You do expedited permitting for affordable housing, and you're supposed to have an ongoing review process where you look at any ordinances to see if they're going to impact the cost of housing. You don't have to not do it, but you have to look. You also probably should look at some other incentives like density bonuses, inclusionary zoning, reservation of infrastructure for affordable housing, and then flexibility in zoning regulations for affordable housing, anything but sheds. We looked at who are your developers. What do you have? You have 357 assisted units, and these are properties that had some kind of federal or state money going into them. You've got 6 properties that were financed by Florida Housing Finance Corporation. It doesn't add up because 2 of them are unfinished, or 3 isn't on here. So, but that's the numbers anyway. You have 4 properties that are financed by Rural Development, the Department of Agriculture, and you have 2 that are HUD Public Housing. So about 350 units have some kind of assistance. And these are your developers. I'm going to breeze through these, but these are the folks that own these properties. Royal American has 3 of them. And they're a venerable organization. They're based in Panama City. And then you have Wendover Housing Partners, and they're the ones that are doing Denton Cove apartments in Appalachia, and they're from out of the area. You have the Hallmark companies, and they have Carabel Cove apartments. And this is a tax credit property. And then McDowell Housing Partners is the listed developer for Jordan, Bayou, and Carabel. And that one is just now coming online. It's 50 units. You have your housing authority, which is a high performer, which is good. And so they've been providing assistance for many years. And then you have the Northwest Florida Regional Housing Authority, and we're a little unclear exactly what they have, but we think that they have Driftwood, Carver, Happy Acres. And you have some new single-family housing. I just drive around a lot. I saw the ones on the left in Appalachian, the sales price on it said something like $459, which seems like really high, but that is within the probably close to your Hometown Heroes program that I'll mention. And then on the right, there's the subdivision of these homes going up. Those could very likely become affordable with purchase assistance. So then we went to some solutions, and this is just kind of like suggestions, and that is that some type of housing task force be organized, invite a wide audience, your commissioners, any electeds, and then your employers from the hospital and the school board, Department of Corrections, and a sheriff's department, and your service industry reps, and just get together and start talking and maybe set some goals of, for example, like we're going to do 10 new single family homes a year and maybe 1 tax credit deal a year, and we're going to call the shots on those, okay? Target homeownership repair, and especially disaster mitigation. There's a whole lot of funding out there for that. Mitigation, I think you could get away from using your SHIP for that and go into those other sources so that you could use your SHIP for purchase assistance. And then you've got support your community land trust. You have a community land trust here. It's even mentioned in your comprehensive plan. Very rare. Community land trusts are popping up all over the state. They've been here for a while, but it's a nonprofit that partners closely with the local government, and they are the steward for surplus public land, and they lease it out to developers and to homeowners under a ground lease. And when that user's finished with it, it comes back and it stays permanently affordable. And we highly recommend that you support that framework so that when you do invest in housing, it will stay with the land trust. And then to review the regulations, these are some of your tools. These partnerships I mentioned, to bring them in. Philanthropy is here. You've got the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund is next door. Maybe they could come in, but and you've got your business, real estate, community service providers. So you've got your regulatory incentives where you can streamline development, and then the financial incentives and programs. And by that I mean your SHIP and Hometown Heroes. All of your local governments and your agencies have a good deal of surplus land, and surplus land is precious. And that's why we advise that you be very methodical about what you do with that for affordable housing, and involve a community land trust. We have a guidebook on surplus land use for local governments. So it's your greatest asset to be able to make affordable housing happen, because like I said, the land cost is one of the reasons that we don't have affordable housing. And then work really closely with your employers to get their input. They have land. Nobody wants a school board to be a affordable housing owner, but they need housing for teachers, and that's a perfectly legitimate type of a project. But we need that group to champion it and kind of build the plan. And then, keep looking at your vulnerability with the, because of where you're located. I saw your emergency manager was here today. So that's just something to always look at, where your lower income people and your people in floodplain, are they seniors, are they disabled? And then get those homes fixed. This is just a couple slides I had on that you have a community land trust in your comp plan, and these are actually pictures of that. And then you have good surplus land policy that you will work together on that. So you have all of the building blocks. I just think that it's time to form something. Your capital, your new SHIP administrator, they're really there just to administer SHIP. I think you need something bigger. They're not your housing department. When I have all these cool things that I want to share, but I don't want to bury Mr. Moran with it. So I don't have any, there's no there to send stuff and to build on this with you. So anyway, Hometown Heroes, this is a Governor DeSantis's marquee program that came out this year. But if you look at it, the income levels are much higher than the regular ones we're used to. And so this is where you can serve your workforce with home ownership. The home prices can go pretty high. They have to use mortgages. They have participating lenders. And it's for these eligible occupations, which are the heroes. Okay, they're basically licensees, but it's people who work under in education, in healthcare, your first responders, active military and veterans. And then you can get up to $25,000 in purchase assistance. So that's where, if you blend that with SHIP, because SHIP can go up to 140% area median income, this is the vehicle to do those 10 homes a year for home ownership. For rental housing, again, look at your incentives, but this is another case where when a developer approaches the county, you want to already know what do we want, what don't we want, and here's what we will work with you on. And so just kind of be prepared for that. You can even do an RFP for a developer once you have a plan and say, well, we want to do something on this site and we'll kick in the land, but we want it to be, this level of income and these amenities, and you be in charge of what you're going to get. So that's all of that. Here's my pitch. If you can form a group, and I will meet with them twice a month, for an hour, Zoom meetings, and just inform and guide. I can do that till December. So I know that Commissioner Grove suggested that at the summit, and so we're really happy to work with you all. The meeting was so pleasant, and everybody was just on board and sincere about the need for housing, and so we're just happy to keep helping in that manner and help you make a plan. And so, Commissioner Jones, that's it.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I did attend the summit, and Ms. Cook, thanks again for coming and giving a condensed version of that workshop. I did ask you at that meeting, you discussed surplus land, which we do not have. And I asked you at that meeting, most of our land, considering it is state-owned, I asked you how we could navigate that, and your response was that you guys can help us out with that. Is that correct?
Well, okay. You're talking about forest land?
Yes.
Probably, yeah. There's, again, if you have you find the land and it's within the urban fringe where you could get infrastructure to it, okay, and you find a good site, and you say, yeah, we want to, do an RFP, we want a developer to come in and build, say, 50 units, right? Or a 50-unit subdivision for home ownership. Once you have that statement, then ask. And I have been involved with numerous state land being leased out or let out for development of affordable housing. I haven't worked with forestry or anything like that, but we would be absolutely delighted to work with you on that and help get through that.
Thank you.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
there's that.
Yep, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you also, relative to finding an appropriate piece of property, what are the issues to make that property eligible in its location for infrastructure? You know, I'm thinking of a piece of property up on Route 65 that's right next to the Sheriff's Department that's right now owned by the County School Board. It's 29 acres or so, plus or minus, and it's right there, up high, dry, flat, appropriate for potentially affordable housing. However, there are no infrastructures around it, like schools or hospitals or grocery stores and that type of thing. Taking a piece of property like that, how do you look at it to be qualified in any way for this workforce housing appropriate?
If it's not buildable for affordable housing, it sounds like it is, but if it's not suitable for affordable housing, the idea is that you sell it and put that money toward a different site. But on the other hand, I know some of these properties, I've seen some of them and they're beautiful. And the thing with affordable housing is the bigger it is, the more you need infrastructure. Rural development has been building housing in rural areas with like package plants forever. So it's just all a matter of knowing what you want, and then, figuring out if you can do that. But again, you're going to want a developer agreement that spells out exactly who does what and what you're going to get. And you can say that first priority is teachers. There's nothing wrong with that, prioritizing. But if you give us an address and get us working on it, we can help figure out a strategy. That's what we do, is strategies. It may be something where you want to do a subdivision or a multifamily, just depends.
I have a follow-up question then. I am thinking of the idea of custom strategy. If you look at Weems Memorial Hospital, they have some acreage right there on their campus that might be appropriate for affordable housing, modular type housing that's brought in and set up specifically for housing for the folks who work there. Have you seen models like that are like customized specifically for the area where it's to serve?
Yes, that instance, the hospitals don't want to own affordable housing and take people's rent and all that. They want someone else to do it for them, and so they would ground lease the land to a developer of your choice, of course, and then that developer would be prioritizing the employees. It depends on the financing that's going to be used. There's a lot of private venture capital out there looking for a place to go. So it's, when you have some there and you can put these pieces together for a strategy. But that's, an excellent example. Employers also have done things like where they contribute in some amount of money to like a trust fund, and then that trust fund gets housing for different employers. So the employee doesn't have to go to their boss and say, I need housing. They go somewhere else, but the employer is behind it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners?
I have one of the commissioners don't. Hey, Gladys, can we talk, let's talk about Denton Cove. So I received some information from them about, what the maximum income is that people can live there versus the rent for the 2-3 bedrooms, whatever. I guess my question is, based on your experience, what happens if they cannot fill those units based on the income, I could say requirements, restrictions, and the rent that they have to pay? They stay empty? Are they able, since they had a tax credit, to go back and say, look, we can't fill them based on what we got the tax credit for? Can we increase the income requirements? How does that work? And just to let you know, Gladys, I plan to have a meeting with the executive director or whatever reached out to me. I plan to try to meet with them next week sometime, but I'm just asking you, based on your experience, what you see happens.
Yeah, Well, tax credit deals they come from the Treasury. So you think IRS, and then you think investors. And the investors get to take a tax credit, a large one for 10 years. Every year they get to take a tenth of what they put in. A lot of equity came into that deal, probably $10 million, okay? And so if that project cannot stay in compliance, the investors can't take their credit. And so there's extreme need and pressure to be in compliance. I've never seen one that couldn't find I mean, they did market studies. They know their market is there. But if something happened, that would be something that would go under Florida Administrative Code and go back to Florida Housing. The investors, they would be very big. But here's the thing about tax credit deals is once they kind of get established, if they serve more people way down in the lower end, they can income average and allow people to live there that make higher income. So they could get up into the 80% range if they have that mix. Income averaging is kind of a new thing, but it's one way to do that. What I would have done is I would have told them 80% of the units can be at that level, and then you're going to build 20% of the units at market rate renters. That way you'd have that mix, that flexibility.
Okay, that's a question I'll ask next week, the income average thing. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, I really would like to move forward with this. I know, I'm one of 5, but I would like to get a task force together so we can start addressing our workforce housing issues. I know people look at it, workforce, affordable, 2 different things, I guess, in my opinion. So, I mean, I'd like to sit down with you at some point and us get a game plan together.
Okay.
So that we can hopefully potentially look at this for our people in our community that need houses that they can afford to live in.
And Gladys, I'll kind of loop you in on that meeting to help guide us as to how we could start a task force, okay?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Ms. Gladys, the affordable housing and workforce housing, the succinct difference from getting them started is affordable housing are usually tax credit projects, correct?
Oh, there's affordable home ownership too.
Right.
And yeah, tax credits are just one component of it. Tax credits are the biggest money and the most units, and they're done by wealthy developers that you don't have to give them any money.
Right.
But affordable housing has a whole range,
Right.
Not just rental.
Right. Okay. So just to make sure the board is aware, if we're talking about Highway 65 to try to put development, the infrastructure that's very basically needed that stops at the sheriff's department is water and sewer availability.
Yeah.
It can be expanded, but that's kind of where it stops currently.
Yeah.
It doesn't even go to our road department or out there. So any development going north of that, I think from the county, East Point's listed in our comp plan as our urban service area. It allows for greater density. East Point's also an economic opportunity zone. That area from when you come into East Point from the bridge all the way to the Carabel Bridge and north to the county line is an economic opportunity zone, which is another incentive for someone that's wanting to do a project. The thumbnail sketch of it is and it's designed to get people to reinvest in communities. So if I were a developer and I were starting a project today in East Point, building a business per se, and I have capital gains taxes to pay, I get a 7-year deferment on those. If I keep that business, that project for a full decade and do the necessary reporting with the federal government quarterly, and I sell that business, there are no capital gains taxes on the sale of that business. So that's another incentive that possibly, maybe if we can tie it to housing, I think we need to pursue it. We'll see how it goes. The other thing I can say, Ms. Gladys, is I also have the pleasure of serving as a gubernatorial appointee on the East Point Water and Sewer Board. And our board voted about a month and a half, 2 months ago, to pursue a housing, some sort of housing on the 40 acres that the district owns that's off of Highway 65. So it might be a good, if Mr. Morone could probably get you in touch with Mr. Billy Fuentes, which is our administrator. You know, we're interested in using that property. It's property that was set aside that we were told we would need for future development, and it was grossly exaggerated, so now it's kind of just surplus property for the water and sewer district.
Yeah, the infrastructure is really hard. One of the incentives I mentioned was reserve infrastructure capacity for affordable housing, and that means don't do all your infrastructure out with expensive housing, and then when the affordable developers come in and say, well, there's no infrastructure, so that try to reserve it. But I know that, you know, with impact requirements, developers are supposed to put in their own infrastructure. So, you know, maybe if there was kind of a hybrid development in that area where the private developers, higher end, whatever, would pay for that infrastructure, then the affordable housing would be kind of part of that. And that would be the incentive that we'll let you do this if we also have the affordable housing. But that is the biggest hurdle for rural areas for larger housing, is that infrastructure.
And Commissioner Lockley, you know, even in using the airport, we talk about bringing jobs. A lot of the people say, okay, we can bring you jobs, show me your housing situation. And that's where we get in, you know, we don't get in trouble, but you know what I mean? It makes it harder for us to attract businesses here because we don't have the adequate housing at the moment. So it is really important that we start this task force, Commissioner Ward, really important.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just had one more question. Gladys, this is sort of a technical question. Have you ever seen within our state of Florida where commissioners approve a specific PUD, Planned Urban Development Project, and then, but with the contingency that it needs to begin development within a certain fair period of time, after which time that PUD is expired and it's no longer valid? The reason I'm asking that question is because large chunks of land are encumbered by those kinds of very special benefits, and with perhaps no end to that encumbrance. But I'm wondering if you've ever seen any contingencies like that.
Well, I know that Lee County, a development order lasts 10 years and then it goes away. So the permission is basically rescinded if they don't do anything in 10 years. So I don't see why you couldn't have some kind of a time limit on these permissions that are put out there. It's a rough business, you know, they'll go put in, dig a ditch and say, well, we worked on it.
True.
But, you know, our director, Janie Ross, prepared an inclusionary housing zoning ordinance for you guys a long time ago. And that is the thing where, you know, developers participate in the affordable housing need. They're always made whole. But when when they come in for something like that, or like what you just said, you know, 10 acres and it's going to have something on it, they have to commit to either funding, putting some money in, or building some units. But it's always required by law that they are kept whole. So you would provide incentives to them to keep them whole. They're not paying for something really, they're just part of the process. But I would encourage you to look at that again. Inclusionary housing, sometimes people get scared when they hear it, but it's a wonderful way to get the affordable housing you need. The developers that actually start doing it don't mind it at all because they feel like their own workers are getting housing.
There you go.
But we can talk to you more about that. I'm not the attorney. We have a land use attorney with the coalition who could work with you more on those types of things.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
You know, in a situation like this, every place you have, in order for it to grow, you got to have things going on. Things you got to have going on for this county to grow. The first thing you got to have a workforce. Once you have a workforce, that work folk got to have somewhere to stay. And most people who move into a county, they looking at your school system and then your hospital. If you got all that together, you got a possibility of growing. But without it, it's gonna be hard.
Mhm.
There you go.
It's true.
Any other questions for Ms. Cook, Commissioners? Ms. Gladys, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today, and I'm sure you'll hear from us again soon.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Ms. Erin Griffith, you're up next.
Okay, Commissioners, because the property appraiser is in attendance, I'd like to go ahead and cover item G on my report. And it's board action for the Carabel Tax Increment District Expansion and Budget Update. And this was actually provided as part of your agenda packet. You can actually see the original district and the expansion. Last week, the property appraiser's office was contacted by the city of Carabel with an inquiry on the status of a second TIF, which is a tax increment form for their budget process. The property appraiser's office had no prior knowledge that the city had extended and expanded their existing CRA to include approximately another 513 parcels, almost double the number of parcels and taxable value included in the original CRA. Upon discussion and review by County Attorney Michael Schuler and City Attorney Dan Hartman, evidence was provided that a notice of intent had been sent to multiple offices last June, although the notice itself may have only been addressed to the Franklin County Tax Collector's Office instead of the taxing authority. After review by the Property Appraisers Association of Florida's legal counsel Lauren Levy, the property appraiser was instructed to go ahead and make the change establishing 2021 as the benchmark taxable value for the expanded CRA. On Friday, the property appraiser amended the DR 420 forms package, and this amount will result in an increase of $13,564 to the transfer to the City of Carabel's Redevelopment Trust Fund. The preliminary millage to go out on the county trim notices will remain as initially reported at 5.4707 mils, which is also the current millage rate. Board action to accept the correction to the budget transfer to the City Redevelopment Trust incorporating the CRA expansion.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion, Commissioners? I do have one question, and I don't know if anybody's prepared to answer it. When you're doing CRAs, and I don't propose to know anything about cities or the way they are run, can they add residences in as part of their CRA or residential properties? I understood that CRAs was for business redevelopment or that sort of thing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do not know the answer to that
Okay.
question. The county has never operated a CRA. I did have that conversation with the city attorney, Mr. Dan Hartman, because it was a question that I had also.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the Dan Hartman, the city attorney for Carabel, it is an appropriate expansion of the districts, but I'm rendering no opinion, right or wrong, but I am passing along the information. And just as the city of Apalachicola experienced, and I've told Mr. Hartman this, if for some reason the CRA is not done right and then they have to disgorge those funds back to Franklin County, that's the responsibility of the city of Carabel, just like it was the responsibility of the city of Appalachia.
Okay.
So, but at this point, I'm simply deferring to the legislative decision made by the city of Carabel, and I don't have any reason to question that or approve it.
Right. Well, I'm the kind of same way. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I don't think that's really something we can do. It brought the question to my mind. That's the only reason I asked it. Any other questions? So we do have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Skipper.
Thanks to the property appraiser for being so patient with us this morning.
Yes.
It was a lot of work for them to get all those parcels added on
Yes.
Friday in one day.
One day.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back to the top, please.
Okay, first item A, board action Dewberry task order for the SGI beach parking improvements. At the April 5th, 2022 meeting, the board approved submitting a draft spending plan to Treasury for the American Rescue Plan funds. In that plan, approximately $350,000 had been set aside to address beach parking improvements. As St. George Island had a lot of overflow issues during peak season, county staff asked County Engineers Dewberry for assistance to design, permit, develop bids, specifications, and CEI services to construct a parking area along the expansive Gulf Beach Drive right-of-way between West First Street and Chile Boulevard as the Phase 1 parking improvements. This area is adjacent to the existing parking area for Lighthouse Park and is centrally located in the commercial district. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached task order for County Engineers Dewberry and Associates for $16,450 for the design, permitting, bid specs, and CEI for the West First Street and Chile Boulevard Phase 1 beach parking improvements.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Commissioners, next item is going to be item D. It's a grant amendment number 2 for the Armory Fire Marshal Agreement. The State Fire Marshal's Office has sent an amendment to the Fort Coombs Armory Fire Sprinkler Control System Grant. This amendment, which was attached, incorporates the construction contract with Cook Brothers Incorporated into the agreement between Franklin County and the Division of Financial Services. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached amendment 2 for the Armory Fire Marshal Grant. And I do understand that this grant project is actually running ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I'll report that.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion?
Yeah, when were they supposed to be through with that?
Well, like you were saying, I was gonna report that in my report later. It's scheduled to be through in January, but in a few minutes I'll explain that Mark is thinking that they're ahead of schedule.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is item E, the St. George Island Boat Ramp Improvements Design Grant. At the last meeting, the board opened responses to the request for proposals for the SGI Boat Ramp Improvements Project. The RFP was for services related to the design and permitting of a wave attenuation device and a boat loading dock on the seawall outside of the existing launch basin. These improvements will protect the existing boat launch basin and provide a place to tie up vessels while the vehicles and trailers are parked or retrieved. Dewberry Engineers was the sole respondent to the request, and staff has reviewed the proposal and recommends acceptance. The work will be completed at a cost of $85,000, with $80,000 being reimbursed by the FWC Boating Improvement Design Grant and $5,000 paid by the county's Boating Improvement Trust Fund. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached proposal for the design improvements at the SGI boat ramp.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Commissioners, next item is item F, invoice for fire control services from the City of Carabel for Lanark St. James Volunteer Fire Department. Franklin County has received the first invoice from the City of Carabel for fire services rendered through June 30th of 2022. The invoice totaled $1,770 and follows the rates established by the agreement dated May 9th, 2022 between the City of Carabel and Franklin County, which was $160 per response for personnel and $90 per truck on scene. The attached invoice will be paid from the Lanark St. James Fire District's MSBU proceeds. Board action to approve and authorize the payment of the first invoice to the City of Carabel for response efforts. As per instruction, all payments on behalf of the district will be presented to the board for approval during this transitional period.
So move.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Anyone have anything for Ms. Griffin?
Well, I do have several project updates, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, the two FERDAP projects, which was the St. George Island Inclusive Playground and then also Rumen Park. Those grant agreements are actually en route. So I did reach out to them yesterday, and they said, they've just been struggling trying to get everyone else's agreements out, and we should expect them in the next few weeks.
And there's also one from them for Wayside Park in Carabel, correct? For the beach
Yep,
park?
that is from the Division of Historic Preservation, and that grant's also en route to us as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, what's the timeline on that? The grant agreement comes, we get the money X month soon thereafter, and we can start going out for RFQs or?
Well, they're reimbursement grants, so we don't have to wait for any funds. So it's pretty much once the grants, once they're executed, the agreements, then we can actually start awarding contracts and such.
Okay.
And actually going out for bid. And the Carabel Wayside Park, we already had the bid specs ready to go.
Great.
That one will be able to hit the ground running.
Thank you, Aaron.
Have we already, Ms. Griffith, is there anything to do with bidding on the other two projects you were talking about with Blumen?
For the playground location, that one I feel like will be a pretty quick process as well, because with that, a lot of the playground suppliers actually have state contracts or other contracts that we're able to piggyback off of. So for them, it's really going to be just deciding on a design and a cost concept. Now with Rumen Park, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of legwork by the engineers and such for trying to address the drainage issue. So that'll be a little more time consuming on that one.
Right.
But hopefully things will start happening pretty quickly.
Okay. And before we proceed to Mr. Morone, I know we're not really talking about budget stuff today, but in looking at some of the stuff the other day from what we tentatively approved, I know that fuel costs are absorbent and they are nothing we can control, but in just adding up, particularly in the sheriff's budget, because it was a big increase in fuel, even if we increase that amount by 75% over what they've spent in this year, it'd still be about 117,000 that maybe potentially we need to consider as we're going forward and we're going to our budget hearings, that we can move from his line item to capital. It's not cutting taxes, but it's keeping from increasing his budgetary amount. And then, you know, if they run into a problem with fuel, then we always can address that during the year like any other thing. But just a thought, you know, something I run across looking at.
And you know, that's a good thought. You know, you're essentially putting that money in a little bit of a sideline savings account, standing by. It's got a lot of authority, but it's just standing by.
Yeah.
I think that's very responsible.
Well, what you're doing is treating it like how you treat your capital purchases. Instead of having the different constitutional officers or your departments purchase it, you put it in the county's account, so they purchase a one-time purchase and you move on. So it's the same thing with the sheriff's, with the gas.
Sure.
You're just moving some of what, not all, some of what he has, putting in the reserves, and if he needs it, he'll let you guys know. If not, it's something you could use as part of next year's budget.
Yeah, I think that's great accountability, and it shows just a lot of over-governance responsibility of just standing certain things by while we watch. We just have an opportunity as our economy changes.
And should fuel prices prove to be, you know, highly volatile and continue on this track, you know, the county is going to have to evaluate the way we do things at that point anyway.
Yeah, for everybody.
We're all gonna have problems.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
You got more than the sheriff. You got, you know, your own road department, solid
and
waste,
recs.
et cetera. Parks and Rec,
Oh, yeah.
they go from thither to yon, so, yeah.
Okay, anything else from Ms. Griffith before we proceed? Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffith. Mr. Morone, you're
All
up.
right, Commissioners, item A in my report, it's the Evergreen, a review. Since the pay plan was implemented last year, there's been a handful of county employees that have expressed their discontent to both staff and commissioners with their classification status in the plan. With that in mind, I asked Evergreen Solutions for proposal that would have them re-administer the survey, evaluate the county employee responses, and provide, if needed, updated recommendations on job classifications. Evergreen will send representatives to interview employees that have questions or concerns with their current pay plan classification. The total cost for this reevaluation will be $7,000. So I'm asking the board to approve this plan, this project, to have them reevaluate any employee that has an issue in confirmation of classifications within the pay plan for county employees. So
move with a talk.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley.
I'll second, and I also have a comment.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Lockley, please proceed.
Yeah, this Evergreen plan, when it first come out, I didn't like it, and I still don't like it, because it focused towards mostly the beginning, not the people who've been there. It was more focused on the entry people coming in. Well, this thing, when you're gonna do a plan, in which this is a plan to fix the pay. You need to fix the pay for everybody, not the beginning, cause the state said, hey, we got to hire people. We're going up to $15 an hour. So we got them to kind of show us the way. But you got people been there. And really, if you don't adjust theirs right, the people who come in there making the 15 gonna end up making more than them, or right at it. With 50 years, 30 years, or 40 years, whatever. So I think it should be looked over the whole thing. You got a whole lot of people that's not satisfied, but they not complainers. Some of them scared to complain. Some of them, they never will complain, but they not satisfied. It's just not right the way this thing is set up. And I want them to look at all this thing and treat our people fair. I want people to be treated. If they work for the county, treat them fair. Pay them right.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on, Commissioner Ward, please.
I just want to say, and to reiterate Commissioner Lockley's statement, I agree, but I want the people to know that this was something that we did, we never done it before, so there are growing pains with it. But I would like to also add that this is it. Me personally, I think we did, our county employees did deserve raises, no doubt about that. I agree everybody should be brought up, not the first one coming in that's newly hired get paid the same or more than someone that's been there multiple years. But I want them, I want the schedule when they're coming to do these interviews, because I'd like to sit down with them, because I think a lot of the confusion was how they did these interviews and how they had them write on the form what their job descriptions were. I think that's where some of the confusion was. So I think that we need to make sure that the employees know and understand, and they need to ask questions to the interviewer about what exactly this means. And I think now they do realize the severity of this. But for me, this is the last hurrah. I don't want to have to keep revisiting this every year, and have to pay $7,000 or this or that amount of money every year. This, to me, is a one and done thing. They need to figure out what they are missing and explain and be very firm, and then move on from there. And that's it. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on just a second, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Ms. Griffith, what is the timeline we're using to implement this plan?
It's a 5-year implementation plan.
Okay.
So essentially, it was a scientific approach of looking at all of your jobs, and we also did the hybrid parity model, which did give employees credit for time served. However, it was a model that was based on, in 2021, when we started it, in 5 years, it would take place 5 years to reach market value with a 1% inflation built in.
Right.
Now, during those 5 years, of course, you're 5 years out. So 5 years later, most likely you're not going to be at market value. 5 years from now, you're going to be at the 2021 market value.
Right.
So that's something that, employees do need to keep in mind. Granted, it does take you 5 years to get there, but that was actually the only option that the county could actually afford. It didn't get this bad overnight, as far as, years and years where, there wasn't any sort of market-based approach. So it's taken a long time to get here, where there was so much compression and wage issues, and then it's not going to be fixed likely with the first time.
Well, and the only reason I was asking that was I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but you do always have good answers. The thing that we have to remember when we're discussing the pay plan is we couldn't afford to, without just absolutely raising the millage rate, to implement this in 1 year. So I know in some of the people I've had discussions with that actually are county employees, that, we were talking about their situation and how the pay plan was. But when I looked at it and called them back and got to them, I said, do you realize that you're at the end of this 5 years, the time that we've spread out to so we can afford it without just straight going up on the millage rate, you're actually gonna move up $6,000 in 5 years. I said, if you can point me to any other time in Franklin County history that employees have had that kind of money given to them as in raises and increases, you'll be challenged to find it. Because I remember a lot of discussions where we talked about $1,000 or $500 or, some of the stuff in the past, everybody wasn't raised up, we just raised the bottom. That's helped create some of the issues we're having. At a point in the past when the board raised up the starting minimum wage and nobody else that had been working there was raised up because they couldn't afford to. You do the best you can with what you got, but the long and the short of it is I want to make sure and clarify and make sure the board remembers we're doing this over a 5-year plan. So no, it might not be where it's going to be today, but you have to do what you can afford to do. So I want to remind the board of that. Commissioner, did you have something?
Thank you. I'm looking at this $7,000 fee, and I'm also considering this almost once in a lifetime that has happened for many of these employees. And I question, particularly with the few examples we've been talking about this morning, what the interview technique really was relative to what Green Tree was doing, or Evergreen was doing. When you're on the phone with some customer service company and you finish a negotiation, it's very rare to you. They say, well, Mr. Bolt, may we help you with anything else? And, there's a part of me that says, what can you tell me without me having to specifically ask the question about how you can help me? Be forthcoming without waiting for a trigger word from me. And I think there's an issue here with some of those employees who needed that little tutoring or coaching about what they should be asking for when they're being interviewed for such a monumental time of their financial lifetime. I just question the technique here, and I really wonder, should we be paying $7,000 for them to come and do it all over again? Maybe they should have done it right the first time, in my opinion.
We paid a whole lot more than $7,000 the first time, sir.
I know, but here we are paying another one. Maybe they should have got it right the first time with the example I just gave.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, go ahead.
With all due consideration, Mr. Bolt, you're never gonna get it right. Just as the fellows, commissioner said, this is it.
Yes, I understand.
This can go on every year. From now on, you're gonna have one employee or this employee or that employee that's not gonna be satisfied. And when they hit on certain commissioners and staff, then we're gonna ask them to come back and redo it again. I mean, if you don't establish, as the commissioner said, this is it, everybody, vent your frustrations, or vent your concerns or whatever, then this can go on annually. I think I deserve more. I think I do more. That's just the way human nature is. We started everybody out at $100,000 apiece. Next year they want 110. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
I agree. If they want to look at it again, that's fine. But I'm like you, another $7,000. But this could be an annual event. Yeah. That we need to go back and look, because somebody's not satisfied with what you're getting. But like the chairman said, you're getting a lot more than what we've ever been in. I've been sitting here a pretty good while.
Yeah.
I was here when the budget, the bubble burst with all the land sales and everything. They were giving raises every year, but when I got here in '06, boom, we couldn't do that no more. We had to cut millions of dollars out of the budget to keep from busting the ceiling on the millage rate. Yeah. And as we doing what we're doing right now, as far as the pay plan and budgetary issues, at some point, when this real estate bubble, if it burst again like it did in '06, and you have to start cutting millions of dollars out of this budget, you're pretty much going to be locked in on some of these budgets, because you're no longer allowed to drop these budgets. People's jobs are going to be on the line because you've overextended what the millage rate's going to let you do, because you only allowed 10 mills. And as this budget bumps up every year, when the proceeds and property values fall, the millage rate's got to go way up in order to generate the same amount of money to fund what you funded this year. If you understand what I'm trying to tell you. And there ain't nowhere to cut it. You got a lot of constitutionals this year to come back with a zero-based budget. They didn't ask for any increase, and we sent letters out asking not to ask for increases. I'm just telling you that when the bubble bursts and property values fall, now your millage rate's got to stick up in order to generate that same amount of revenue. You're gonna run short on things that could cut. And then the board, whether I'm still here or not, or whether some of my fellow board members still here or not, somebody at some point is gonna get caught with this. And I like the recommendation of the chairman earlier about, we need to look at what we're doing. If you remember during the budget hearings, I'm getting off base here, but anyway.
You're good.
Yeah. I said, the budget can come down, but it can't go up. And as you heard this morning, with the Carabel CRA, now we're going to have to find the money somewhere out of the current budget, because we can't go up to generate that $13,000 to send the city of Carabel. So I mean, these are things that you got to look at, and I'm just, as the chairman said, this pay plan has never been implemented. I brought it up many years ago, but it never went forward because of all the issues that you're seeing right now today, based on what Evergreen's done and others have done, because it's not as simple as let's just do this or let's just do that, because of all the extenuating circumstances around each county employee and what they feel like they deserved and what the job they're performing. And so these are just growing pains, I guess you would call it.
And I do support that this is it for the employees, but I just wanted their pathway to be properly counseled so that they understand what they're doing.
And you can say that, but that don't stop people from coming to you.
Understood.
That don't stop people from coming to you with their opinions, with I think I deserve more, I should have got more in the beginning. Even though we say, if the board says this is it, we're not going to go back and reevaluate no more. We're not going to keep paying $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 every year to reevaluate. It still don't stop the complaints or them expressing their concerns to you or to any member of this board or staff. I mean, it's just growing pains that you got to go through.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick response to Commissioner Bolt. So, Commissioner, I'll tell you, I like what Commissioner Ward said. So I sat in on some of the interviews, basically, where Evergreen came and explained what they were doing to the employees and how important certain things were. Some places they asked questions, some they didn't. But I will say this to you, Aaron had to beg some of the departments to get their write-ups of what the employees did. So I guess what I don't want it to come across here, that we're blaming Evergreen for not doing their part. I think they did their part. The problem is you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, basically. And so the employees have to do their part. So some of the employees I've been talking to, I said, look, if the board approves this, when Evergreen comes back, and Commissioner Ward, you're so right, when they come back and they sit with you, tell them everything. Ask every question you want to ask. Make sure that when you walk away from that interview, you feel like, okay, they've answered my question. You might not agree with whatever classification they come up with, but you had your opportunity to say your piece, basically. So I just kind of want you to know that, yeah, it's good. I mean, I know more than one commissioner should not attend those interviews, and we'll discuss that later. But know that Evergreen really tried their best to be available to answer. I mean, they went to the road department. I believe they went out to Fonda. They went to different departments to sit there and spend their time to try and get employees to understand. Okay. But Commissioner Ward, you are correct. I think some of the employees didn't understand the importance of putting all that information on those JATs, or what they call it. And I think now they get it. Now they realize, because they'll come and tell Aaron or myself, well, I do blah, blah, blah. Did you put it there? Well, no. So you see where I'm coming from. And Commissioner Lockley, to respond to what you said earlier, Evergreen had basically a two-part mission. One, to get us compliant with the $15 raise, and two, something that the chairman complained about for years, fix the compression issue. Kind of make sure you separate the people that's been here for a long time. Did they do everyone to everybody's satisfaction? I'll repeat, Commissioner Parrish, no, you never will. But now, I think, with both sides understanding a little better, the employees and Evergreen, I think we could get to a better spot here with this final review of the pay plan.
Let's
I
get
hope so.
real.
I hope so.
Let's get real. Look, it wasn't the workers' responsibility to go in there and tell Evergreen nothing. That stuff supposed to have been wrote down from the county commission saying, this is your job, this is your job. That's how it's supposed to be. Why would a...
We don't have that.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was not done.
It wasn't.
Yep.
So
they had to create it. And
it wasn't the people to go in there. They didn't know what they.
That's
go in
right.
there and tell them. It was the county job to have your job outlined.
That's right.
Well, we don't.
And
That's
we
called
don't.
being
And
forthcoming.
you ain't got it together yet.
And we didn't.
And Mr. Chairman, I can add to that, like you said, Commissioner Lockley, yes, but there are, I know, people that were at the road department that are helping the airport fix their equipment.
yeah.
So that might have been not added to this Evergreen original study, because at that time, they were not doing that. So they're going, and I know that the road department guys help out with Fonda and welding. I literally went out there one day, and they were welding a recyclable bin. I'm not talking, a dumpster, big. They were re-welding and refabricating that so that he could reuse it. So, you know, you've got multiple departments doing multiple other departmental jobs. They're just commingling, which is fine, but that might not have been added to their original workload, in my opinion. That's what I found in talking to the employees.
But Commissioner Lockley, to go even further with that, as you said, let's get real. I think for years, the county has been talking about doing reviews every year of each employee outside of the pay plan. This has nothing to do, that's not been done.
Right.
So the problem is, again, thunder. I will say this to you, Commissioner, you don't have a true HR staff that's supposed to do stuff like that. So without the staff, you have to lean on a vendor. Evergreen was our vendor. We said, okay, we don't have these things. We need you to help us create it. So that's when we started to do it. But
Essentially helping with the foundation.
yes,
The foundation
we had no foundation. It just wasn't there. So
And
that's,
we still ain't got now.
you know, so we're better off than what we
Yeah,
were.
we better off.
But
We
it
better
needs
off,
to be,
but we
it
still-
does need to be refined. I'm not gonna disagree with you there.
We're a long way from where we need to be. And it's just not gonna happen.
I mean,
You got to get it right. I mean, you got to get it right. You got to work on it till you can beat them out. And just, it's gonna take time.
and it's a team effort, you know? Everybody needs to contribute to get to where we want to be, and I think we're getting closer and closer, but it's like the chairman said, you know, this didn't happen just yesterday. This is years and years of not doing that. Commissioner Parrish is right. Not these members, there was another study done that was rejected because at the time we said we couldn't afford it. But there was a study done similar to this. I don't think it was done as well, but you know, it was similar. So again, this is years and years of a problem we're trying to fix. It's not going to get fixed in the first year. That's just not going to happen. And yes, there are going to be growing pains and tweaking and whatever term you want to use, but it's going to take a while to fix something that's been a problem for years, commissioners, for years.
We got to get down, like, I don't even know whether the people know, like if you on the job, say, okay, I could be a secretary or be a secretary. That secretary, okay, in order for them to move up, there's step 1, step 2, step 3. They go in there and tell them I'm a secretary. They ain't gonna never get their pay right. They ain't gonna say, they got to say step 1, step 2, step 3. With each one of them steps supposed to be an increase. Or if they do that, they go down to decrease. And that's how things work. That's on each one of them. You're gonna require, you got telling people, hey, you got to have this, you got to have that. If you ain't got it, they won't hire you.
Mhm.
But if you got it, they won't pay you.
And what do you do to get from step one to step two? Do you need to be certified? Do you need to take some kind of class to be a better administrative assistant? Again, all that, and we're not even close to that. So we still have a long way to go, commissioners. But anyway, this is where we are, and this is what I'm recommending the board does to get closer to where we need to be. That's the best I can tell you guys.
And one thing too, just for the public to keep in mind, you know, as far as like when you look at the actual 5-year implementation cost estimate, practically 46% of the pay plan can be attributed to the sheriff's department. You know, there's the largest block of employees, and then about 42% of the annual expense would be attributed to the Board of County Commissioners, and then the other 12% would be amongst the other constitutionals. So,
Okay.
it's a countywide plan, but it's a 5-year approach because that was what was feasible.
And we're only reviewing county employees here. This will not include constitutionals because they pretty much, we haven't got any, I think their complaints are internal and they work it out.
Yeah.
You know, so this is just your county employees that we're speaking of.
Do you have some?
Oh, thank you. I agree with everything that's been said. I see the cascading and everything. I do want our county employees to get the proper pay based on merit. But there's a part of me that says that they need to be tutored and counseled in the pathway in order to answer the questions correctly. And triggered in a way, key words to say, by the way, welder, did you go out to the airport you know, I understand, and you did some welding out there, and that was not the road department, but you have skills to do welding, and you are multitaskable? Oh, well, yes, I did, as a matter of fact. Maybe then there's another merit.
Yes.
And I do believe these folks need to be tutored more appropriately to get the proper questions answered.
Yeah. I think it's also possible, Commissioners, let's just be honest with ourselves. Before we implemented the plan, it was all just a discussion. So as these interviews are being done, there were no guarantees from these employees or from Evergreen that we were actually going to implement the plan.
True.
So I think some of that can be attributable to what we're
True.
doing.
I didn't think about that.
Because,
You're right.
you know, yeah, there was a lot of work being done, but there might have been that employee or that sentiment that we're not gonna adopt it anyway, so what does it matter?
True.
Well, I put my
Could be.
effort in.
So that might
I
be
hear you.
part of what was going on. I'm not saying it's all of it,
Yeah.
but that could have been part of it.
Yeah.
I did hear that at some of the meetings.
Yeah.
That I attended. You know, this was the third attempt, or they were, you know,
No.
anything actually gonna happen.
Right.
But the others were rejected years past, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
So any more discussion before we vote? Because we still haven't voted, right?
I don't think so.
No.
We're having the longest discussion today, but that's okay. It's all good and necessary. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, let's move on, hopefully to less controversial things. Okay, D, because we already did B and C. D on the second page, Commissioners, at your July 5th regular meeting, the board appointed members to the local technology planning team. One of the members appointed was Mr. David Walker. He's Weems CEO. However, Ms. Murdis Wynn, who also serves on Weems Board of Directors, recently expressed her interest on serving on the LTPT board. Mr. Walker doesn't mind, and he doesn't have any issue with allowing Ms. Wynn to serve on the board in his place, and Commissioner Lockley also supports this change. I talked to him about it. So everybody's good with it, if the board as entire is good with it.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous.
Okay, item E, Commissioner Ward, feel free to jump in if I misspeak. Recently, Commissioner Ward contacted the Florida Forest Service about designating the Bear Creek area as an ATV, UTV, and dirt bike trail. The commissioner explained the positive benefits this trail would present for the kids living in the county, and pointed out that little effort is needed for the creation of new trails, as there are trails already in existence that can be used with some or no maintenance. Commissioner Ward also pointed out that the use of the trails will perhaps reduce the illegal dumping that goes on in that area, and suggested looking into, make sure I get this right, Commissioner, the T. Mark Schmidt Off-Highway Vehicle Safety and Recreation Act and grant for funding. If the board supports this idea, I suggest a letter of support to the Forest Service from the board and encourage any organized ATV, UTV, and dirt bike groups to send letters of the forest to the Forest Service supporting this project. I'll provide an address to any organization that wants to do that. So this is more of a discussion and maybe possible action on the board, at least the board doing a letter of support for this project.
Mr. Chairman, the reason why I'm asking for the letter of support is because when I talked to Mr., I think his name is Chris Colburn, with FDAX, he flat out told me that he was not in favor of this. And this also borders your district as well. And I said, well, you you don't really, you're not against it, but I'm pretty not aggressive individual, but I'm the type of person, I'm gonna try to everything with my power and might to get it. These are kids. It's the summertime. I know summer's winding down, but that's all they want to do is go out and be able to ride their ATVs in their backyard. There's a trail up Highway 67, but let's face it, most 16-year-old kids don't have a way to trailer their ATV, UTV to Carabel. And I certainly don't want to take away from that trail, but he flat out said, I'm not in favor of this. I said, well, would a letter of support help with the process? And he said that it would, and for me to even be calling him about it spoke volumes. So I just think that it's good for the kids. I think that it's definitely something that we hopefully can look into. It has, us as a board have no control over saying yes or no to this. This is up to the forestry, but I think a letter of support certainly wouldn't help, which is why I'm asking for it. I have people in the community as well that are supposed to be getting petitions. So with that being said, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to incorporate a letter of support. And I can give you Mr. Colburn's contact info to forward it to him.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, so you made a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to write a letter of support.
Well, you already got a second. We
Thank
have
you.
a second by
Appreciate
Commissioner
it.
Lockley. Commissioner Ward made the motion. I do want to ask, Commissioner Ward, is this going to be like a designated area or like a designated track?
He said that in my discussions with him that I guess they cannot have two designated tracks. I would trail tracked. These trails are already made, so it's not like they'd have to go and do anything with them. The one on Highway 67 is already designated.
Okay.
He said that they may not designate this because it would take away from 67. I said, I don't want that. I don't want to take away from that. He said he would have a hard time justifying both to be designated as tracks or trails because Highway 67 doesn't get the ATV, UTV traffic that it's supposed to. But I explained to him, I said, it's for the kids. They need something else to do besides playing video games all day in their house. We have all this acreage and property. Why do we have to have one designated trail? Why can't we have multiple trails? And the reason what brought this on is they were back there riding and were issued citations from FWC. So that's kind of what brought this on too, is, they're trying to have a good time and they're getting ticketed $50 a ticket for going back there and riding on this trail that's not designated for, it's not a designated trail. So to answer your question,
it would be an area.
Hopefully it will be this area, but it's apparently a long drawn out process in terms of designating this as a trail.
Yeah. Well, I know, and additionally, there are several that I know of, children, teenagers, young people in our community that race motocross. So having an area that they can go, instead of having to go to other counties to even get on their bikes, I think it'd be beneficial, But it is kind of worrisome, because I've had some residents talk to me about their kids getting cited for being out in that area, riding around on a four-wheeler. They're out in the middle of the woods. They are literally in the middle of the woods. There's no residents there. There's nobody else around, strictly woods. So I definitely support this letter. I just wanted to add some of that discussion because I've had residents ask me about it as well. And I've also had some residents say that they wouldn't mind writing a letter of support as well if that would be deemed necessary. So maybe we can coordinate with them and let them know after we do ours, if that's the way the board votes. Any more discussion for them? Yes, sir.
I don't understand the Lord. We busting about 2 trailers Don't want the children to ride a bike, grown folks riding, I don't want nobody riding. I'm like two. But they can build a walk there from here to, I see it all the way, almost down south, on the side of the road.
Mhm.
But the children can't ride 2 blocks in the woods. That don't make sense. Ain't gonna make sense.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
And I support this. So.
Yeah.
And yes, that's 46 miles long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave there and they got a walk trail all the way down south, from here to South Florida. Children can't, or grown folk can't ride in the woods.
Yeah.
They gonna ticket them.
That's crazy.
Any more discussion before we vote?
This is a good idea. I'm glad you did it.
I can't take full credit. It was people in the community that contacted me about it. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you did. You haven't done anything wrong. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Item F, Commissioners, quickly, I sent you guys a draft copy of the rules of procedures for your meetings. The chairman would like each of you to review these rules and forward your questions, suggestions, comments to me so we can adopt a final version of this at a future meeting. And I said board discussion, but I know we can talk about that later. Your ethics class, that's one of the important informational items. I've scheduled it for Saturday, September 24th with Attorney Jennifer Schuler. Please check and let me know right away if anybody has a conflict with, it's a Saturday. We do it in here.
That's in September.
Yes, September, next month, yes. So just double check for me and let me know right away if you guys have any conflicts with that. As I said, Commissioner Lockley, you asked, on Friday, Mark attended a progress meeting at the Armory, and here's what he said. The contractors have about finished with scraping the loose paint and priming all the white interior surfaces. Next week, they should have the environmental testers come in and verify that they've cleaned up all the lead dust. Within a few weeks after that, they should start work on the installation of the sprinklers. And he thinks they look like they're running ahead of schedule for the project. So maybe, keep our fingers crossed, say some prayers, they can have it finished by the end of the year, Commissioner, rather than in January. We already talked about the crosswalk at Carabel Beach. The calendar contest has been forwarded to John Solomon, as we always do. Send some pictures locally in with what the theme is, keep calm and love water. And I end with bad news. MediaCom sent me a rate increase for our residents and their customers in the county. I can scan you and send you that actual letter from MediaCom. They went up $1 or $2 on a lot of the packages for anybody that uses MediaCom for television.
I had a question about
State over
MediaCom.
that name.
Yep, you guys have no control over that.
No control.
PSC controls all that.
Do we have like a letter of influence questioning? My constituents get vague answers about when they're going to be arriving at a specific address for services. I know we have no control over that.
Yep.
Do we have any,
No.
if any, at least we wish that they would inform people a little bit more clearly about what their intentions are and plans?
MediaCom?
Well, yeah, not about rates, but just when services are available. I have a constituent that lives on Kentucky, and the services are maybe within, I don't know, maybe 500 feet of where he lives, but he can't get it where he's at. And the point is, I understand he can't get it, but let's finish the rest of the thought. When can he get it?
Yeah.
To be
it's a problem.
forthcoming.
Yeah.
Can we at least send a letter saying we know about this and give the constituents some answers?
I contacted Consolidated, the same thing, wanted to know when, because they're doing some work, a stone throw from my house, I would say, increasing bandwidth, 10 times fold, I won't get into the numbers. I asked them, well, when are you guys gonna come like 2 blocks down across to my house? I can see you working. They're like, we'll let you know when we do it. That was their answer.
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you too, how many times have I asked for a cell phone tower at Highway 65?
Yep.
Why? Because they don't have the customers, so
Yep.
that has a lot to do with it too, I think, is they're not gonna come run line or cable if there's 2 people live down the street. So they wanna make it worth their while.
Yep.
And I understand that, but at the same token, I agree with you, it's like people get upset because they can't get it. My subdivision, people behind me can't get it. And it's like you said, literally run a wire. It's not that easy.
Commissioner, my opinion, knowing that all that broadband money is out there for free, they're waiting until they have access to that money to use it to basically wire the county, because of that, they're not spending any of their money on the infrastructure. They're spending the government's money, and that's what they're waiting for. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that in any factual way, standing here as your coordinator.
That's
but-
why I went to Hulu.
What'd you do?
Still need internet for that.
Oh,
Right.
Anyone have any
But
other
that's
questions?
all the items I have for you, Commissioner.
Can I, just some procedural things, if I can get some help on this?
And to remind you, at 1:30 this afternoon, an hour from now, that we have the public workshop on what it will take for a private road to be converted to a county maintained road. So kind of wanted to remind you guys of that.
Just to ask, Mr. Marone, can you just let us know when the next fire coordination meeting is going to happen on behalf of St. James Lanark Fire Department?
Okay.
Let us know that.
I will contact the fire coordinator. He said he's going to do it on that side of the county commission.
Okay. Have you guys been aware that in the last 3 to 4 weeks, there has been no newspapers in District 2 in about 4 or 5 newspaper dispensers relative to the Apalachicola Times? They're not in the dispensers, and that's happened in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I know we have public announcements on behalf of the county in those papers, as well as other issues. Should that be addressed?
Well, I think the only way we can address it as a county, since we don't handle distribution for the newspaper, is, you know, everything we have is on our county website. I mean, it's being done digitally, and I think state law allows for us to do that, if I'm incorrect.
All right, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
The Times Online has a legal button, so to speak, on the upper right-hand side, where they are publishing virtually all of the county's legal notices, and based on the new state law, that is sufficient legal notice. And then we're doubling up on that, as the chairman indicated, about also publishing the notices on our website.
Okay.
The issue of physical distribution is outside of our wheelhouse. I mean, that's
Understood.
private commerce. As long as we are meeting our legal obligations for public notices, which I believe we are, then I think that's where our obligation to the public ends, and the obligation of the private business and their customers begins. Just my opinion.
Yes. Thank you.
Because the only way we could address it if we tried to do another paper that had any kind of local circulation would be the Panama City paper or the Tallahassee paper. And then people are gonna say, well, why is it in the Tallahassee paper? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's only other ones with circulation here.
Yes, sir.
Was that it, Commissioner Ball?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Anyone else have anything for Mr. Morone? Come on, surely you have something for him. No.
Really?
Okay, next, County Attorney, Mr. Michael Schuler. Sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, 2 action items. The first action item is to request board approval of the contract between Ferrovial Services and Franklin County. That is the contract in which the state DOT subcontractor provides us their $10,000 annually for bridge cleanup. This contract covers the period beginning January the 1st of 2021 and ends on December 31st, 2022. And so this contract needs to be approved and have the chairman's signature on it.
So move.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolton, Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Second contract is not on the email that I sent to the board yesterday, but it is for the ship administration contract with Capital Area Agency. There were a couple of changes that I made and Mr. Morone have made, so we're satisfied that the contract is in proper format and includes the ship administration. There's still an outstanding question about contract administration that Mr. Morone and I are working through. But we do need to get the contract in place so that we can, because they've already been under contract, or actually doing the work for about a month now. And so I'm asking board approval of the contract and authorizing the chairman's signature on the ship administration contract, and we may be coming back to you with an amendment regarding contract administration. The contract administration deals with whenever the ship has a construction contract and there's a certain list for the scope of work, the contract administrator is charged with going through and making sure that checklist of the scope of work is completed. which is consistent with how your ship administration has been handled with Lori Schweitzer. The issue that we've sort of run into is that her contract administrator is also an employee of the capital area agency, and so we're just working through some of the details of whether that contract administration service should or should not be part of the administration fees. Most likely it will not be, because that is not how the current contract is structured. But again, what I'm asking for today is board approval with the chairman to sign the ship administration contract, with the proviso we may come back with a contract administration issue for you to deal with in the future. Basically, Mr. Morone is waiting on a reply back from Mr. Cheney at Florida Housing, and we don't have that response back yet, but we do need to move forward with the contract.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley, second by Commissioner Ward. I want to ask a question, Attorney Shore.
Yes, sir.
On that contract, it's not going to be a problem for us to do it in this fashion, is it? Since it's not, well, the biggest thing is, since it wasn't on the agenda, we need to call for public comment before we vote, correct?
That is the board's policy,
Okay,
yes, sir.
yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Where they located at?
The ship, community action located in East Point, as you turn right onto Island Drive. I think it used to be a car lot. Is that
No,
what
well, before that, it was Hill's Pharmacy years ago.
Yeah.
That's
Where the
correct.
Pharmacy was at.
Yep. See?
Yeah,
Truck link,
it was,
that's what I
was.
thought it was, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out for
Yeah.
Yes.
information.
And I did update the website with that location and all their numbers, Commissioner. I did that last
Okay.
week.
So
All right?
before we vote, I will call for public comment. Is anybody in the room that wishes to speak about this before we take action? All right, seeing none, is there anybody?
Anybody in line would like to speak about it? We have one caller moment. Raise your hand if you would. No raised hand, sir.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, Chairman, Commissioners, an update on 2 real estate purchase contracts, the first being in East Point, Florida. The appraisal came in last night after hours at $180,000. That puts us within the range of the contract for the purchase price, which was between $149,000 and $199,000. Doesn't require any board action at this meeting. I just wanted to get that information on the record, and I will be delivering a copy of that appraisal to the clerk's office for their records. Second purchase contract is for the fire department property at Alligator Point. The contract range for the purchase was between $350,000 and $400,000. That appraisal also came in late yesterday afternoon. The appraisal price is below the purchase price range. It came in at $230,000. I have notified Mr. Paul Parker. He's directed me to get in touch with Mr. Hugh Hartsfield and one other person whose name I don't recall. The ball is in their court at this point. Their option under the contract is the seller can reject the contract at their option with no liability. The county's liability is that we will have to pay for the appraisal, and I think it's either $750 or $500. I think it was $750. Or the seller in the county can renegotiate a new purchase contract. It is my intention to have a conversation with the volunteer fire department's representatives. Hopefully they can enter into a new negotiated contract, but we are stuck at $230. So if they don't like that number, then that purchase is not going to occur unless they renegotiate the contract. Then just for the board's information, the ordinance for the removal of personal property items like RVs, trailers, even a houseboat that apparently someone has placed in public right-of-way and using it as a residential structure. That hearing will be held at your next board meeting and will authorize towing of that out of the county right-of-way subsequent to notice being provided to the owner. Give them a chance to move it, and if they don't, then it's going to be hauled off, and then they'll have to pay tow fees and storage fees to get it back. But Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report to the board today.
Anyone have any questions or concerns for Attorney Schuler? Yes.
Just wanted to ask you of a potential 2 assignments I wanted to ask you if you would consider.
Yes, sir.
One is relative to the inappropriate placement of these mobile garbage cans that the waste garbage companies come and pick up. They're in Lanark Village. There are clusters of them that have been put off on the streets for the garbage collecting folks to come pick up. And then they're left there with there's no provision that that again requires that the owner return them back to the property. And I'm wondering if we might look at that, because, you know, it's impeding parking, it's impeding egress and ingress to homes and so on. Can we look at that as a potential ordinance?
Oh, Commissioner, this board has the authority to regulate its right-of-ways, and if that's what the board tells me to do, then that's what I will do.
I've seen this in photographic evidence, and I've also had testimony from constituents about this concern there at Lanark Village.
Commissioner Bolt, are you talking about so like where I live at my residence, I keep my trash can in a certain spot, right? But when it's pickup day, I roll out to the edge of the road so they can dump it. Are you talking about the fact that the residents aren't going back and getting their can and putting it back off the roadway?
That's one example.
Okay.
And the other example is that many Airbnb facilities are there at Lanark.
Yeah.
The renter puts the can out and goes away, and the can stays there, and there's no provision for returning it where it belongs.
Okay.
Can
I
you
just
do-
was clarifying, making sure I understood
Okay.
what you were saying.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything for?
Just one more. This leave no trace that we've been talking about relative to turtles and so on.
Yes, sir.
Relative to the fact that we still have a few months left in the turtle season, is it appropriate before November 30th to come up with an ordinance about the leave no trace issues that we have on all of our beaches to get it
Sure,
set up?
absolutely. The board has actually already taken action on that relative to Alligator Point and Bald Point. Are you referring to some other location, Commissioner?
Have we, I'm really referring to the comprehensiveness of the ordinance across the entire county properties and beaches.
I believe we already have that leave no trace on St. George Island.
Okay.
I think it was expanded to include parts of Carabel Beach. I'll have to double check that. So I think
Okay.
Bald Point and Alligator Point are the only ones that would be left. We don't regulate the leave no trace on private property. I mean, it's too much of an enforcement issue. We did not include, for example, the private beach in the plantation, because how are we going to get access to it? How are we going to enforce it? But just for the public beaches.
Okay, all right.
Okay, you ready for me to move forward with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
that's it, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? Attorney Shore? All right, now we're at commissioner comments.
I just had one.
Yes, sir.
I am deeply sad with the passing of one of the legacy personalities in our community, Mr. Ashley Teet. He passed away after a long, protracted, multi-comorbidity illness, and he passed away this past Sunday afternoon. And he was a tremendous personality, a man who was truly out of the way of himself and had the county heart at heart. And I just wanted to remember Ashley, a very, very special man, and just bring that announcement to you guys.
Ashley done did.
Yes, sir. He passed away
He
Sunday.
passed away Sunday afternoon.
As a matter of fact, I think I don't remember the time, but I think they're having the services this coming Saturday at the Christian Center in Carabel. I think it's in the morning time, but I do not remember the time.
Okay.
Any other commissioner comments? Meeting adjourned. We'll see you guys about 45.